By the way, we mentioned earlier on that a lot of people in both the US and Canada are struggling to get to the PCA because of cancelled and delayed flights because of the bad weather. Tim Riley is among them. Tim says, stuck at the airport, but at least I can watch the 100K Super High Roller on EPT Live. This is without doubt the toughest feature table ever assembled.
He agrees with you, Mickey.
Yeah, I think that might be true of anyone.
Are you using the whole card cameras? Because I haven't been showing my cards to the camera. Should I be?
Fine.
So I should show my cards?
If you keep it like that, it's fine, they've been saying. As long as you do this, they said they would do it.
Okay, cool.
To answer Justin's question, the hold card cameras are being used, but not for our broadcast. We're just logging that information for later for the TV show.
But also we do have the RFID scanners on the table, and that's mainly how the whole card information is recorded. It's kind of belts and braces, and the cameras are there because we still do like those whole card shots on the TV shows. They look kind of sexy when a player peels their cards. So an under the gun raise from Vanessa, called by Olashemian. Decision on Gruesome on the button.
Gruesome starting the hand with right around 500K.
Looks like he was considering something, but thought the better of it.
Now Kurganov with a decision.
Yeah, he's getting excellent odds from the big blind, but apparently not a strong enough hand to continue with. And Kurganov left a flop more than almost anyone, so must have been pretty bad.
9-7-6, 2 hearts. Selbst out of position, but with the betting lead. She
Decides
doesn't
to
continue.
check. Yeah, pretty interesting. Interesting to see if she's check calling here or just check folding.
I feel like nobody check folds anymore.
That might be the new thing in 2014. Who knows? It is the kind of flop that hits Shimon's calling range pretty well. So it is possible with some of her worst hands she would just give up. I don't know. Then again, Vanessa's not really the kind of person who gives up a lot.
Not the give up type.
She might have a hand like pocket eights or 7-8 or something like that and decide to check call. Or she might surprise me and check raise. That's the thing about Vanessa. I never know what she's going to do. Just a check call.
Three of diamonds on the turn.
So because it's Vanessa, does the under the gun raise mean anything? I mean, she's going to raise.
She's going to raise a lot there. Not only that, but they're playing 7-handed. Like, it's practically a short-handed table. So I think she is going to be opening a lot there. I wouldn't put too much into the under the gun thing. I mean, Justin Bonomo is really short, and it is a tough table, so maybe she'll open a little less. But she's folding the turn very fast here, which is a little bit surprising to me. It seems like a blank turn, but...
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
What's up, Donnie?
Not too much. Busted a few hours ago. Then just got a haircut, went to the gym, and came back here.
Tell us about the pain. How much pain today?
It was a very slow, gentle pain, I think. It was just, I just didn't play any hands for like 4 straight hours and then just had no chips and lost.
You were getting needled yesterday for not playing much.
Yeah, I know. I was getting shit on Twitter and, I don't know, is cursing bad?
It's worse for us than for you, but...
All right, I'll keep it to a minimum. Yeah, no, I mean, I know it looked ridiculous, but I swear.
It didn't look ridiculous to us, by the way. Like, sometimes you just don't have cards. Like, I don't think I would ever call someone out for playing too tight. You have no idea what's going on out there.
Of course. No, I'm, like, very confident that there's virtually no good players who would have played, 99% of my hands differently. They were just super easy fist pump folds, so I just kept open folding.
You were playing the Jack 3, 10-5 game?
Exactly.
In those situations, doesn't it eventually become comical? Like every time time you get new cards, you're like, it's a new possibility. Oh, no.
Yeah, especially, you start sweating the first card, you get like a king, you're like, oh, this is it, finally. And just peel
Deuce.
back a deuce out every time. Yeah. Alternatively, you could be short stacked, and that being shorter than everyone also has its advantages, because basically everybody's if everybody at the table is 50 big blinds and they're playing a strategy towards playing like a table of 50 big blind players, and you're sitting there with 12, you might pick up some spots where they might be raising too wide for given how small of a stack you have. So there's just having different stack sizes can help you a lot.
Selbst raised to 32,000, re-raised by Shemi, and a 3-bet to 90,000. Vanessa makes the call, a Jack-Jack-9 flop. Vanessa checks. What do you make of Shemian as a player, Donny?
He's very tough. He's seems to have toned down his craziness a bit, but he still has the ability to really just play every hand super aggressively. Not somebody you really want to see on your left in a tournament.
An amazing string of results when you consider this kid only just turned 21 a few months ago.
Yeah, there's really not that many super young guys on like the tournament circuit anymore. It's not, when I was 21, there were like a million of us.
Everyone was 21, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, with Black Friday and like the poker boom slowing down, really young kids are not like getting into poker as much, I guess. I haven't seen I haven't played with like an 18-year-old at an EPT in a long time.
Accept it.
Vanessa check calls the flop for 100K.
All right.
5 of spades on the turn.
How's it going, Dan?
Vanessa's more likely than most players to be doing something tricky on this flop. By that I mean either slow playing or potentially check calling with a hand that a lot of people would check fold with the intention of bluffing later on in the hand.
And if she is doing that, floating the flop with the intention of bluffing later, could that bluff just as easily come on the turn or river?
Yeah, she might, she might be check calling and then decide, she's probably somebody who might say, I'm going to check call and see what happens on the turn, and maybe I'll check raise, maybe I'll check fold, maybe I'll go check and I'll bet the river. That's probably her mentality if she decides that she doesn't want to fold the flop. And, if she bets this river, I wouldn't be shocked to see Shimeon make a hero call. I wouldn't expect it with something like ace high, but it's certainly possible.
Right, but with Vanessa's rep, it's, again, not shocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, this will be the last hand of the level. The tournament clock has just ticked into level 14. After this, blinds will be 10-20 with a 3K ante. So Vanessa leads the river.
I mean, but this does make this a tough decision because, as you said earlier, Vanessa could play this tricky either way. She could play it tricky with a jack and play it very slow by checking the turn, and she'd also just bluff huge here.
I wouldn't be surprised if she check called. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, she flatted a 3-bet pre and she opened, so she can't have too weak of a hand. But I wouldn't be surprised if she check called the flop with like, ace 10 with a backdoor flush draw or something like that.
No, I understand. I just think it's interesting. Like, you don't even distinguish between
In what way
each other.
do you mean then? I just called them Fabian, Max.
And you said 3 of them, 3 of us.
3.
Yeah.
I assume. 3 people I have pieces of.
It's only
This
3.
is awkward.
Agree that we're all the same person.
Selbst decides to
What you playing, dude?
bust up some of this awkwardness by just doing what she does best, raising.
If in doubt and the conversation gets awkward, put a raise in.
Dan check, defends his big blind. These two tangled a bit in Prague.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I hope that reached an amicable settlement.
Wake up.
Nice job.
Double wake up. Coffee and you guys.
So Dan checks the 9-7-3 flop. What is going on behind the scenes?
We're going to a yoga place, though. It's not.
That sounded like a hug with multiple back pats. if I were going to venture a guess.
So it was Phil and Igor hugging, right?
Probs. And Vanessa continued the flop. Shaq called. 8 on the turn. Looks like Shaq's checked again.
And Vanessa slows down. She checks behind.
Now, Donnie, sometimes people say, you know, oh, when she checks here, she definitely has something, and sometimes someone's giving up. Like, how do you know the difference between the two?
Well, you know, certainly she has some give-ups in her range. It's not like the best. This is definitely not a board where you want to have too many no-equity bluffs, so she's probably not betting the turn, or at least a lot of people wouldn't bet the turn with a no-equity hand.
Money well spent, right?
You know, because she's going to have so many hands that she can barrel that she doesn't necessarily need to barrel when she has something like, you know, king, queen, or if she has, you know, deuces or something like that. You know, on the other hand, she also might be pot controlling with a lot of hands on that turn, because that turn could easily have hit Dan's check calling range on the flop. So I wouldn't be shocked if Vanessa checked back something like jacks or tens on the turn.
Really?
Yeah, especially versus Dan, who's not. He's not like too crazy, so I don't think she would expect that he would just blast off on the turn with like some, you know, one pair hand there too often. Where there's just tons of poker players everywhere. It's a pretty small town, so you actually see poker players all the time, and it's, you know, it's very relaxed, like resort sort of town with. There's a lot of expats there from Europe and South America and other parts. There's other people from other parts of Mexico that move there.
I know we like to shy away from stuff like this, but I guess my question is, like, how do you feel safe there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the part of the town I live in is like, I mean, you would never, nobody could like be there and feel unsafe. There's nothing shady going on. I haven't seen anything to worry me. I haven't seen any, you know, cartel activity. Not that I would really know what it was if I saw it, probably.
Unless it was something directly out of a movie, like a guy driving down the street firing a machine gun into the air.
No, I mean, you see police everywhere. Like, I mean, everywhere. There's like, it's like, there's just cops with like M16s walking around the street.
Sure.
You know, that's, but you know, my family's Israeli, so I'm kind of used to that.
To the big guns.
Yeah, it's not like that weird to me to see that. You know, you see army trucks sometimes, but I mean it's pretty safe. I haven't seen anything to worry me.
This hand check to showdown. Pocket fives for Vanessa Selbst, and Phil Gruesome mucks. So Vanessa increases her stack up to 1.8 million.
How much did Phil start that hand with? It seemed like he was short. Oh, I guess he doubled up earlier. He's like over 600 now, right?
Yeah, he's playing 529 after that hand, so he's probably around 550 at the start.
Yeah, if he's a little bit shorter, Vanessa probably would start thinking about just shoving from the big there and not letting Phil see 3 cards when he has 2 overs to her 5s.
And we see Vanessa in the background there winning the high roller event, the 25K buy-in event at last year's PCA, defeating Vladimir Troianovsky heads up.
Come on, there's no street that I could fold that hand.
It looks like you have more because the other side is like green. I guess oh, that's not green. Yeah, sick. That's the light. I swear, if you come over here and you look at the second blue stack.
Gruesome kicking things off with the raise.
The other one. Like with how the light is over here.
Yeah, green and blue is a little difficult. Not the best choice of colors.
It really looks like green. Like, I would bet a lot that it was a green chip.
Yeah.
Try taking the sunglasses off, Bryn.
Good thing I didn't.
They don't seem to know the real names of the chips. They're calling them green and blue.
Yeah, that's messed up. Here come your real names.
That's right. Bryn,
Sunlight.
Deep Lagoon.
That's right.
And of course the very popular Moss Garden chips, popular not just for their colour but for the fact that they're worth 25,000 each. I mean, obviously you played at this table yesterday, Donna. You know what the lighting's like. I mean, to us, watching the screen, the blues and greens seem quite distinct. Is it easy to confuse those chips from a distance when you're actually at the table?
Yeah, if they're like stacked in the same stack, you could definitely miss it.
Okay.
Like the way
Justin did.
If I see somebody, I'll point it out. But like if they have like the greens on the bottom of their stack and then the blues on the top, you can like, you know, not be able to tell exactly how many.
90, right?
So Gruesom's under the gun raise, 3-bet by Vanessa Selbst. She made it 90K. Phil calls 9-5-3 on the flop with 2 clubs.
It is a slightly worse playing experience on the TV table because it's just kind of uncomfortable, but you know, I'm not complaining. It's still fun.
No, we definitely understand those sorts of things. It goes a little bit slower. The rail's a little weird. There's lights.
Yeah, it goes. That's definitely one of the things. It goes slower. You have to adjust for the TV thing. But you know, everybody understands it's not just a tournament. It's also a TV production. Can't have one without the other.
So Gruesome checks the flop. Vanessa continues.
Pretty small, but expected bet size in this spot. Frequently see people going like 1/3 pot.
And if 1/3's enough to do it.
Remember, the hashtag on Twitter is EPT Live. The email address is nuts@pokerstars.tv.
I tend to like the cut of the jib of the person who uses the phrase "cut of your jib."
I agree with
that
that.
makes sense. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's a good expression.
I have absolutely no idea what it means. I mean, I know what it means. I don't know, you know, the root of it.
The genesis of the expression.
Yes.
Well, that's why God created Google.
It's a sailing thing, isn't it?
A lot of those expressions do come from, well, courtesy of phrases.org.uk. The jib of a sailing ship is a triangular sail set between the foretop masthead and the jib boom. Some ships had more than one jib sail. Each country had its own stock. Basically, it comes from a nautical expression, yes.
All right.
I used to do yachting commentary before poker.
What was that like?
I was equally as bad at that. Just so much less room for jokes.
Vanessa Selbst wins that with a continuation bet on the flop. Vanessa now up over 2 million. I believe she's the first player to cross the 2 million mark.
You know, I've been asked about this a few times, and I'm not like sure on my position. I think in general, did Vanessa limp here? I'm not like, I'm not a big fan of it, but I understand.
Yeah.
Seems to be the most common reaction.
This is a Gibbons from Vanessa Selbst, limping under the gun, and Phil Gruesome then raises it to 60K.
Phil giving her the opportunity to double Gibbons.
How much did you start with?
Like 400.
And I think Vanessa was there for the birth of the Gibbons.
It was at Mohegan Sun, 2010, when Vanessa won the first time.
For the most part, when Vanessa limps under the gun, I'm guessing she's not doing any limp folding.
Well, she did double Gibbons.
Thank you, Graphical Nick, for the alert.
What's Gibbons?
Gibbonsing is when you limp under the gun. And a double Gibbons is when you limp under the gun and call a raise.
If having limped under the gun you were to call a 3-bet, that would be the triple Gibbons.
Oh, really? So like limp, cold call, 3-bet?
Yeah. Rare, but not as rare as the quadruple Gibbons, the cold call of the 4-bet.
Did this go check on the flop?
It did indeed. King of clubs on the turn.
Full board has not been doing much c-betting. Although I haven't seen that many hands.
Yes, that is Vanessa's wife, Miranda, on the rail, who just tweeted to say that she saw Webster in the casino.
Webster?
Yeah.
Like from the 80s sitcom.
I can't imagine what other Webster she'd be talking about.
That's before my time.
Well, you know what it is.
Oh, yeah. He was like the...
What it is, what he is.
The little
I just
guy?
called him an it, yeah. He had the big giant house, Mr. Papadopoulos, or whatever the guy's name was.
So check on the flop, check on the turn. Vanessa checks the river.
Ace 10.
Phil checks behind ace 10, Vanessa announces.
I was going to say...
Phil announces,
And folds.
I was going to say that is kind of the hands I would expect Vanessa to be limp calling with under the gun, like suited broadways. That she's
had that one.
not quite thrilled to raise and have to face a 3-bet with, or possibly like middle pocket pairs.
Maybe.
Kind of surprised to see.
I didn't show pretty. I clearly thought you were stronger than you were.
Kind of surprised to see Phil check it down there with a hand with worse showdown value than ace 10.
you think that he would have normally bluffed at it at some point?
At some point, yeah. But there's a good chance he just had like ace 9 or ace 8 and thought she either had a pocket pair that she wasn't folding, or like some suited broadways that hit a jack or a king and wasn't folding. Probably didn't think she ever had like ace 10 or ace queen in her range that he needed to get her to fold.
So Vanessa now up to 2.1 million. Meanwhile, I've just exited the PCA free roll. Oh, hang on a second. Phil Gruesome all in for 328,000. Open shoving from the hijack. Folded around to Vanessa in the big blind.
328.
I call.
And Vanessa calls, putting Phil board at risk. Ace 10 again for Vanessa. Ace 10 of hearts against the pocket sevens of Phil Gruesome. There is a classic race underway at the feature table, with Gruesome at risk and needing that pocket pair to hold.
Ace 10 never wins twice in a row, right?
Is that how it works?
I'm asking you. You're the expert, buddy.
It's about 48%.
Two hearts on the flop.
About 52%?
56.
Oh yeah, it's no 7 hearts.
Seven's holding for now, but Vanessa with a ton of outs.
Low card.
Aces, 10s, and hearts all working for her.
Or jack.
Well, there's a 10 on the turn, and Gruesome's now drawing to a 7. Or an 8.
I know, now I'm going to regret calling for an 8.
1-7 not working for him.
Wow.
Right.
Overkill on the river.
$320.
Don't feel too bad for Billboard. He had a pretty good 2013.
Maybe we can just keep the 7 cents, and maybe I can just continually min cash in all of the free rolls we run, and then when it actually gets up to a solid amount of money, then we can make the donation to charity.
Yeah, I mean, you can wait till 2014's over and make that 81-cent donation all in one lump sum.
So Vanessa is now closing in on the 2.5 million mark. By the way, during the dinner break, which is going to happen in 18 minutes' time, we have an exclusive interview with Vanessa Selbst, the current chip leader. 12 months ago, Vanessa got engaged here in the Bahamas, also won the 25K high roller. And in this interview, she discusses the past 12 months of her life, looking at her professional life as a poker player and her personal life with Miranda. You can watch part 1 of that interview during the dinner break. So make sure you stay with us when we disappear for 75 minutes in 17 minutes time. That's how long there is to run on level 14 of the 100K super high roller. So three-way action here. Kurganov limps the button. Vanessa calls out of the small. Kenny checks his option in the big blind. Vanessa leads the flop for 31,000. Bryn's in.
Wow.
And what do you think about limping the button in this spot, Donnie?
It's probably a pretty good spot for it, given stack sizes. Igor probably has some hands that he wants to play that hate to get 3-bet, and both the blinds are going to defend and 3-bet quite a bit. Probably a good idea to have a limping strategy with this stack size. You don't always need to limp. You don't always need to have a limping strategy, but when you're playing against some good players, I think it's probably good. Definitely in the small blind and also on the button. You can get away with playing a little bit looser when you have some limps in your range.
What's a hand that you hate to get 3-bet? You said he's probably got a lot of hands that you hate to get 3-bet.
Jack 8 suited.
So stuff that's not quite as good as like Jack
hand,
10 or Queen Jack.
I mean, you don't like a hand that you don't want to have to. You know, if they make a reasonable size 3-bet, you know, and you're gonna have like a pot size bet left to play, calling isn't necessarily gonna be too desirable of an option, and you don't want a 4-bet shove. You know, it's a lot of middle strength hands. So you know, like or Jack 10 off is a good example also. You know, you can probably get away with playing a little bit more of a polarized strategy with your raises, where you're raising hands that don't mind getting 3-bet because you can just fold or you can just shove. You like to have a little bit of you like to have hands that have flexibility that can make decisions based on their sizing.
Sure.
Well, Vanessa does not slow down on the turn. She bets 68,000. And Ana Marquez is watching Bryn from the rail.
Now, I shared a cab with that guy one time. Don't remember his name. One in Monte Carlo.
I'm sure it was memorable for him as well.
That's right.
9 of spades on the river. Ryan observes on Twitter that Selbst is crushing this table. Let's see how this hand works out for her. Vanessa decides not to bet a third time. She checks.
It started off as a really dry board. Ended up with a 4-card straight.
Brian Kenny bets 123,000.
Bryn always throws in the extra, like, couple small denomination chips. He never bets like 120. It's always.
That's the kind of thing that tilts Lex Veldhouse, right?
Yeah, Lex doesn't care for that. Why do you think he does it, Lex? Why do you think he does it?
I have no perspective on it, just pointing it out in my experience with Bryn. He just always does it.
Vanessa very confused by that extra 3,000.
Now, almost always with most players, when they start making the confused face, you know they're just never raising. They're always going to call or fold. But I think Vanessa actually still can raise because I know in the 25K in Monte Carlo, Steve Silverman told me that she was in a hand where she was tanking on the turn, and she's like, "Oh, sorry guys," or tanking on the river. Or no, I guess it was the turn. Sorry, she says, "Sorry guys." And usually when somebody says that, they're just like, "All right."
Yeah, it's a call or fold.
Yeah, whatever. And then like 20 seconds later, she just shoved, and the guy folded, and she just had a bluff. So she does seem like she's probably not shoving at this point, though. But man, that would be awesome.
We love that move, though. That's like one of the few things that can still thrill us as people have seen like everything at the poker table, like the tank, not really seem crazy about your hand, shove.
Yeah.
Is way underutilized.
Yeah, that's a sweet move.
Vanessa lays it down.
Less sweet.
See that one on TV.
Can't promise it'll make the edit, Vanessa.
Never know. I'm erratic. I can fold the set.
Which obviously is incorrect. We all know it's more like 93 or 94% of the time. And if so, someone turned the crank down.
Where did he come up with that number? 87%.
God.
Aces, kings, queens versus crap hands, 87% of the time. On the flop even.
Oh, what a fold by me.
Turn off.
Huge
Now I will
fold.
call.
Last hand, raise and take it for Vanessa Selbst. Now up to, or back up rather, to 2.4
Only
million.
because you did that earlier.
Dan
it showed I
Shack,
had
the
to-
second biggest stack at this
had to
table.
show.
Igor Kurganov, the
I
low
get it
man,
too
with a
sometimes.
sub-20 big blind stack.
Doesn't it seem like when people are complaining about bad beats, they're just so much more likely to have spelling mistakes and bad punctuation? They're not usually well-formed sentences.
I mean, Price Jack's avatar also. It all fits.
Vanessa Selbst raises from under the gun. Bryn Kenny moves all in. The 367K. Folded back around to Vanessa. She wants a count.
67.
Bet we see that Dan Shack, Bryn Kennahan on the TV coverage, and I think Bryn make the right fold there.
We'll find out in a few months' time. By the way, Bryn's rail now includes Anna Marquez, the guy Joe once shared a cab with, Martin Finger, and Phil Gruesome.
I was going to fold, I just want to do it quick. I get the big buck.
Both Marshall and Horace pointing out that Dan Shack's pulse was racing on that hand.
Called the horse.
Let's see what kind of hand we get before we exit this place for 75 minutes. Folded to the blinds. Igor limps.
Check.
And Vanessa checks her option, and Bryn Kenny cannot wait to get to dinner.
Did you see how hard it was for Vanessa to check?
Yeah, that was a bit of a strange check.
Two kings and a 9.
Oh, you. God.
Kurganov checks, Vanessa bets, and wins the pot. So that'll do it for that level, and that'll do it for this session. 75 minutes on the dinner break. When we
2013 started in the most magical way possible. I came down to PCA with my then girlfriend Miranda and decided that that was the perfect place to get engaged.
I had no idea where we were going or why, and we ended up by the beach, which she hates. So I definitely knew something was up.
I had this plan to take her by the dolphins very casually and nonchalantly, but I was not very smooth, to say the least. I ended up kind of fumbling over my words.
I definitely thought that she would be more suave about it given her personality, but I said yes anyway.
The amount of confidence that gave me, it really was reflected in the way that I was playing. I really felt like I was playing my A game from the super high roller through the main event and through to the high roller. Everything I played, I felt like I was really on.
Vanessa Selbst heads up against Vladimir Trinovsky.
Vladimir played a really excellent heads-up match.
Vanessa shoves. Trinovsky calls.
Vlad is in a great spot to double up. Vanessa does have 3 outs, though.
It looked like he was going to double up for I think it was the 4th or 5th time.
Ace. It's an ace! That's it, it's over. Vanessa Selbst has won. Wow.
And when the dealer peeled off that ace on the river, and I just looked really shocked, and I think I was just stunned for the next 30 minutes. It was an incredible feeling to have just gotten engaged, to have Miranda there and, win that title and become the, highest earning female in history. Just the combination of those things made PCA one of the most magical experiences that I've ever had. We got married at the end of August on a rooftop overlooking the Williamsburg Bridge and the Manhattan skyline. We had someone that did a reading about gay marriage, just to kind of remind everyone that it wasn't your typical wedding. And after that, I don't know, it was just a really awesome party.
It surpassed my expectations. By far, it was the best day, of my life. It was perfect. Being in PCA was a surreal experience for me last year, being engaged, and so it's really great to be back here exactly a year later, married now. Excited to see what this series brings for Vanessa.
I can honestly say that in the last month or two that I've been pretty consistently playing my A game, and I'm just excited to keep up the momentum and come into PCA with a bang.
But it's if Nui is going to call or not, that's the most important thing.
Well, just meanwhile here, our hero from the earlier stages of today, Bryn Kenny, now all in. Vanessa open this up for any shoves.
Good luck.
Oh wow.
Okay, man.
She turns him dead.
Must be
Ben
nice.
busts out.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And the man that at one point was our massive chip leader
Really close, boy.
now leaves us a couple of spots from the money. He's got his shopping with him though, so he'll be all right.
It's like a recurring theme. I sit here every year, and every time I see Vanessa Selbst with a weaker ace against the ace king, and every year she wins.
It's over.
It's always the Bahamas.
Got to play good. You got to run good to win these tournaments.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I heard Vanessa say that it was pretty close there, so she was probably saying it was a marginal call with the ace-9. You know.
Yeah. One of the people I think is pretty good at that is Stephen Chitwick. He plays 20 big blind stacks really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just his background, you know,
Yeah,
coming from
sit
sit
and
and
goes
goes.
and,
It was just perfect, you know. Him and Busto Soon and guys like that, it was just mathematically so good. But Stephen Chidwick's like the type of player who's just evolved and developed his game over the last couple of years. He's brilliant in the mixed games now. Fantastic at
it's
tournaments.
really impressive. Like, he's such an active poker player. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
He obviously loves the game, you know.
Yeah, and all, you know, the all-round game as well. It's like everything. He can do everything almost now.
This hand seen Anthony Gregg has raised it up, and now Vanessa is keen to know exactly what he's got. Started his hand with just over $1 million, so not to be messed with.
And Anthony Gregg is not somebody who's going to think, oh, it's Vanessa Selbst with a lot of chips in the big blind, I can't play this hand. You know, he'll just play accordingly. And, you know, he'll use his position. I don't think he's somebody that will take gas off the pedal. He has the kind of stack where Vanessa might put a lot of pressure on him, though, because there's some short stacks like Korganov in the tournament, so close to the bubble, like three spots now. So I'm thinking that when Anthony plays a hand against her, if he has a little bit of showdown value, you know, he's just gonna pot control. Like, you know, situations where normally he might continuation bet ace high, he might not check a little more, just so not to open the door for Vanessa to put pressure.
Yeah. She will take that opportunity if it's given to her.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
she'll kick it down.
Yeah, if you leave the door a little bit open, she's going to ram the house down. So
she's thinking now at this stage this is an ideal opportunity for her to lock up maybe a top 3 finish. You know,
yeah,
she could easily get herself up to 4 million by the time the bubble bursts, and that's probably going to be her aim.
63,000 she's bet out here, having gone check post flop. 9 of hearts has induced 63k for Anthony to think about.
I think what I think Vanessa's main strength is, even though some things are just like, I think a typical example of something that's questionable is the hand against Sean Deep last year, where she went all in with ace king high on a 10 high board against his ace 10.
Okay.
But I think what she does really well, and what's also the fruits of those kind of questionable things, is that everybody knows she's batshit crazy, but people are kind of too uncomfortable to do something about it a lot of the time against her. And that's something that's so valuable that if she raises the button, people in the big blind are just like, you know what, just take it.
So many free chips, it's just not worth
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to make those plays once in a while, you know, where, I mean, and of course you're going to be wrong too, because you're not a superhuman.
How much of her success, like, do you put down to her persona and her kind of, you know, people just seem to find it very uncomfortable playing against her. She's just got that amazing image that seems to work so well for her.
I think there's a lot she can attribute to that. I think it's like with people like it's hard to name names also, but it's like I think Vanessa definitely ran above EV in certain situations, but at the same time she's one of the best players. So it's like she's just one of the bad players.
The worst combination in the world, just so powerful. Yeah,
well, you know, there's some key situations where she gets caught with 4-8 offsuit in a 6-bet pot, but beats aces and wins the NAPT tournament, and that's a scary combination when she's also just incredibly good when those situations are when she doesn't get caught. So it's like a combination.
Yeah, if you're that good and then you're running hot, it's almost an unstoppable force.
I think the toughest situation for a player like her is when you're not really recognized as a sicko yet, but everybody knows you play like that, because then people don't really respect you enough where they are going to where they're going to play too tight against you. But I think now she's at a level where people kind of fear her.
Yeah.
And that's when you get so many free chips.
Well, that was an interesting. So it went check, and then Vanessa bet out on the turn, and then she checked after the river. And the bet of 150,000 from Anthony Gregg was good enough to get rid of Vanessa. And
yeah, I think a lot of times when he checks a board that dry and then calls a turn bet, his showdown value, or he picked up a 9 on the turn, but his showdown value is going to be so good that she just expects to get called.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a quick question came in from Dana on the Twitter. Don't forget hashtag EPT Live, saying about how many players bought in versus how many had the rebuy. It was 46 actually came in as unique entries with 10 re-entries that got us to our 56. Only one new player came in on day 2. Everything else was a re-entry.
That's so nice. You're just like, no, I'll go tomorrow and I'll register a day later. Or, oh no, the sun is out today. I'll just register tomorrow. Like, who cares, you know?
Stuart on Twitter is saying, glad to see Vanessa Selbst bossing it, as I picked her, Sorel Mizzi, Vanessa Selbst, and Jason Mercier in that order to win yesterday.
So we've got 2 players over 2 million on our secondary table. Again, only a couple of players to lose before we redraw. Play down to our final table.
Wait, when does it get redrawn?
At 9.
Oh, okay. And then the final table officially is at 8?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's always good to do that. Like, you don't want to have one table playing with 5 and one with 4.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's a little too big for that.
Well, Ollie has raised this to 55k.
It's so crazy how I read his name and there's nothing. I don't even register anymore. Oh, he's there again. It's just like, yeah, it's close to the bubble, and Ole is
Obviously,
at the feature table. And if you don't see him there, he's at an outer table.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just, he's a beast.
And if he's not there, he's taking a bathroom break. It's like, he's just always there.
Yeah.
That's so good too. Like, you know, if you get a streak like that and you're good and you're confident, after this he's just like Dan Smith. Like they're just always gonna, or like a high percentage of the time are gonna be playing their A game because their confidence is so high. You know, it's gonna take so much for their confidence to get stumped.
Yeah, and it's so nice for a player to have that big break early on in his career as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like Jason Mercier, that the
Yeah,
first
it's like
live
Jason
tournament
Mercier.
he wins an EPT and
Timoshenko, you know, plays
never look back.
First
Yeah.
WPT wins it, and it's like, so okay, so everything I do is correct or whatever, or it worked out, and then you know, and when you play against guys like Anthony Gregg or someone like Vanessa Selbst, you need that confidence. You need to not question your laydowns on the river. You know, you need to know if you want to bluff here or not, and not question it while you're doing it because people are going to pick up on it.
Meanwhile here, Vanessa has bet out 43,000 post-flop ace 5-5.
Interesting lead.
Yeah.
See, this is the kind of spot where Vanessa does something that other people just don't do. Like, you know, you lead out on an ace-high board, even though you know if you check, it's probably almost always going to be continuation bet. So why would you bet a good hand here if you could just also get that money in the pot by letting him bet? So I'm really curious to see what she does here. I mean, I can't imagine she just gives up here, so...
Yeah, I guess if that's how you approached it post-flop, you've got to kind of keep going, otherwise you're just giving up now, aren't you, really?
I kind of, from hearing Vanessa talk sometimes, I kind of know she likes to make plays that don't fit her range well. So like here she defends her big blind, she almost always checks his flop, but then she does something unorthodox, like lead, and then she likes to show weakness on the next street and then take advantage of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bet on the turn, she would have check raised there or done something. She's not the kind of person to just shoot once and that's her game plan, and if not, she's just going to give up.
Yeah, you can't imagine her check folding on the turn.
Well, it went check, check, now it's gone check, check
again.
She says she's got the queen.
Wow. So she led out with a flush draw and then actually picked up a decent showdown hand.
I don't know, like my feeling really is if she didn't hit the queen or a club, she could have...
Oh, fuck.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, the 10 of spades is one of the cards. We didn't see the other one, I don't think.
Oh, but she announced the queen as well, so she didn't know either. Oh, wait.
She announced queen.
She announced
they went
oh, yeah, okay. There wasn't a club.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was no club.
He just said, oh, he didn't see she had a flush draw as well.
Yeah, he was kind of feeling hard done by and then realised actually she was a bit more legit than it looked.
But what I was saying, like, I don't think that if she wouldn't have hit the queen, she would have done something in the hand. She would have check raised the turn. She would have bet turn, over bet river, something like that. You know, something to to really go for the hand, because you can't just lead flop and then give up, because leading the flop is unorthodox, so it's really, you know, normal that you get called there. You can tell that Antonio's pot controlling a lot of boards. Obviously in this stage of the tournament with his stack, that's pretty understandable.
Well, this hand, it started with Vanessa raising it to 50k, just got one call from Anthony Gregg. Check on the flop, check on the turn. And now Anthony has checked again, 127,000. Vanessa's stack looks like some of the buildings here. I kind of expect there to be a water slide coming off the side of it, to be honest.
Sometimes it does. This is the kind of spot where you just hope, like as Anthony Gregg, you have some showdown value and you just want to go to showdown. You just hope somebody checks.
Vanessa looks very happy with herself there.
Yeah, look at that. That's a slightly overly smug little look up on Vanessa's face there. Good job.
You're super pleased with yourself.
Yeah, super pleased is a good description.
I have a feeling I was going to make the same from that hand no matter how I played it, but most likely.
Implying she had something really good.
It was pulling an Ole play. Not Ole, but the one that
Yeah, that wasn't very coherent.
No. Well, you can tell that while she was talking, she was trying to decide how much information she should give up.
Yeah, that's true. So she kind of just like paused at certain key moments. It's like filling in the gaps as you will.
Yeah.
Mr. Kurganov all in, 301,000.
And he is going to get called.
So it's interesting to see now if Vanessa, she does call.
Yeah, this was
what she calls with, you know,
yeah,
if she's going to make calls with marginal hands like she did before. With
this was a pause directed for the players behind her. She wanted to give something off.
I do not have.
Yeah, not aces, confirmation that it is not aces, but it kind of looks close.
Ace king.
Classic race.
So it's like the waiting, should I call, should I not, hope somebody isolates it, you know, with a...
Yeah, with a weaker ace.
Yeah. And then boom.
Classic race underway.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
What do we need now?
The 6 always
Not
hurts
a
so
7,
much.
that's too
Nothing.
nothing.
These guys are always trying to work out what the
Right.
turn needs to be for maximum sick experience.
Yeah.
It's like they don't even
Well,
care
two
what's
should be
going
better
on. They
for
just
you.
want to
No, anything.
who
if you
can
wanna
work
do
out
short
quickly.
I take a 4.
You prefer.
I'll take a 4.
Brilliant.
Very kind.
Even a diamond doesn't help Kurganov.
There it is.
6, 5, 4, right?
Nah, you need 4. 6, you have 3 there.
That is the worst way.
9% chance of the split. Oh.
Oh.
Enjoy.
Yikes.
Don't forget, think about last year.
I keep running like this. I
Good
think
luck.
I will enjoy. I can't lose a pot. It's sick.
It'd be nice to see, I
supposed to say
was
this
saying
on
this in
TV.
dinner break, it'd be nice to see Paul
I
Newey
already
make the
did
money,
that
because he
once.
turns up time and
That's
time
it.
again to these
for the
high
second.
roller events and played the one drop, and he really hasn't had a result yet in any of them.
It's important.
It's
you know.
important because these are the guys who are keeping these, the real success behind these high roller events. You know, they're
Yeah,
willing
of
to
course,
play and
because
mix it up with the best. And
It's perfect for businessmen to play. It's like they love poker. They can't play fields of 800 or 900 people. They're just too busy for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, this is a thrill for them, and I mean, they're obviously incredibly successful, so they have a lot of stuff to do.
And these guys where they're paying and they want to play against the best because they want to test
Yeah,
their
yeah.
game, and it's like, well,
Yeah, here's
this
a
is
table
just-
full of them.
Yeah.
Enjoy, you know.
ole, ole, ole.
Well, Ole has gone all in. 499,000 looks like it's all the
I
way
won't
around
ask for
to
a count, even though I have a really reasonable hand.
Just under 500.
a really reasonable hand.
Because you said last time I always ask for a count, and I didn't have a decision that time.
Okay.
Good fold then.
Thank you. I made it myself.
I've not heard that as an
I've made
answer.
it myself.
Good fold. Thank you. I made it myself.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. I'm so stealing that.
That is a good one.
How funny.
There's 2 things that I really remembered from London. It's I was at Carl Julius and Jason Mercer's table, and Jason starts saying something about strategy, or that, you know, he might let us in on some strategy, which, you know, this is Jason being a dick. And then Carl Julius said to him, "Keep the brilliance within."
Ah.
Wow.
I love Kyle. He's a funny guy.
And in the heads up between Martin Finger and was he heads up with Tobias Rankemeyer?
Yeah, in the Super High Roller.
Yeah, Super High Roller.
Yeah.
When they said when they were all in against each other, good luck in life.
That's
a good one too.
That is a good one.
It is also because whenever it's nice to just say like good luck. It's just a thing you say when you're all in. But I always say too when somebody says good luck, I always say thanks.
Yeah. I don't really wish you good luck, you know.
Yeah, have fun.
It's like when people say sorry after they've like busted someone at a tournament.
Even
Are
though
you really not sorry? Say unlucky.
I say sorry. I say sorry too. So never against the pro, but against the amateurs because they genuinely mean sorry. So when an amateur says to you when they do you really dirty in the hand and they say sorry, you can just say it's okay, no problem.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah.
You don't have to get all pissy about it or whatever. It's so bad mannered to say that. You can do it when a pro says that, because then it's like.
Really?
Sorry.
This is your job, but you're not really sorry. I've just helped you make a living.
Yeah, because on Stars my nickname is like L. and a Veldhuis, and there's a space in between. So when people say sorry after hand, I always say mind the space when you're sending the money back.
Oh. This was a limp check pre-flop, and then Max pushed out 30k and got called by Vanessa. Now we've got a king of clubs on the turn.
Max is in that kind of region where if he raises, Vanessa is just going to click it back. And just good luck. Do whatever you want. We're two spots away from $200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to shove, then fine. And if Vanessa loses 4 big blinds, if she doesn't want to call, and so I like his approach, because he's still getting really, really good odds to just limp, and also the limp kind of implies that he might limp raise,
Yeah.
with a stack like that.
Well, the better 65k was enough to get rid of Vanessa there. That's 188 back into Max's stack.
600?
Sits him on 705,000 now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did Vanessa just limp the button?
Yeah, do you know, I just was looking at this going, is this really real? But yeah, it was Vanessa limped and then so did Ole.
It's yeah, I guess it's because of Ole's stack. She doesn't want to get shoved on. It would be really, if she does this with a really big hand, it would be really, really cool. Even though she gets plenty of action when she just raises with a real hand. So, oh, there we go though. Is that a raise?
So Anthony's made it, Tony Gregg's made it 101,000, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be the limp raise from Vanessa.
That's pretty cool, I have to say. You don't see that often on the button.
Raise.
Because she just wants to represent a hand like, Queen 8, Queen 9, something that she can play in position. But now she puts Tony in a real tough spot, because if Shamion has something, he's just gonna raise. Like he doesn't have much option.
Yeah.
I mean, it really hurts his equity if he lets the third person in from the big blind that gets a free flop.
So he's now moved out of the way, so the action's back on Tony Gregg.
It's pretty face up that Ole doesn't have anything, and then.
Do you think it would be even sicker if Ole was the one with the really big hand in that spot?
Yeah.
So he just completed with a really big hand from the small blind, hoping there'd be some squeeze behind.
Yeah. Then
hoping that Vanessa would do it.
We're heading back to the feature table, where we are going to sweat with Vanessa Selbst.
She's got all the chips. Should be fun.
She's in the small blind on this hand. Action folded around to Dan Shack. He passes. Max Altegott has just joined the table. He gives up the button. Ace-9 is Vanessa's hand.
Raise, just break a little piece off a chip mountain over there.
55.
She makes it 55,000. Ola Shemian in the big blind starts the hand with just over 20 bigs.
Ola Shemian folds. We win, we win. Well played us.
All in?
No, he moves all in.
Crud. This is a call, I think, and probably easier than the one she just made against Bryn Kenny. Yes, we're going to be dominated sometimes, but if Ola's a good player,
And he is. He should be shoving a pretty wide range against a laggy player like us. Lag means loose, aggressive, and we are it.
Vanessa folds, and Shemian had king 4. Vanessa was ahead.
It's cool, man. No big deal. We were a favorite, but not a huge one. Whatevs, I guess.
Selbst, still the chip leader, with 10 players remaining.
What did you say? I said, I don't know whether that makes my fold worse or better.
What did you say?
He said he thought he had more.
It's quite ironic that a German player was saying to Vanessa there that, oh, you always seem to have decisions. If he'd been at the table with his other German friends earlier on, they would have taken a long time.
Are they all like known tankers? Oh, so what you guys said about Fabian Kos earlier was...
Yeah, it was true. But I mean, started with Tobias Renkmeier at the beginning of the day before he busted, and then Fabian took his seat, and then he started tanking a lot. And then we had yeah, all of them were, weren't they? All the Germans were.
Yeah, Tobias earlier on, and then
Fabian, and then
who was Fabian getting into? Oh,
Igor as well.
Grissom as well. He was taking his time, wasn't he?
Yeah, Igor. There was one hand where he took a minute to check.
Yeah, that
and then got shoved on, and then took 2 minutes, and then apologised to the table and said, "I'm going to need some time to think about this." It was like, wow,
really?
Really? You've had 3 minutes already, you know?
I mean, you have to give it to them though. Like they usually come up with the best decision. It's like.
Well, this hand, Vanessa raised it up to 50k. Got the call from Dan Shack. Check, check, post flop. Now the turn pairs with a 4.
60.
Paul's come to have a look. Just to see what's going on. Obviously, as they get nearer to the redraw and then, of course, the bubble. Now Dan has checked to Vanessa, who was the pre-flop aggressor. Make of that what you will. Have a free rhythm. Welcome to the 2 of clubs. 127k in the pot. And that's what Vanessa started this hand raising to. Battle of the nothings.
Another sick spot.
Who's got the best nothing?
A lot of times where I can see Dan Shack have like 5s or something.
I'm just going to raise it.
That's so annoying to play against.
Quick call.
8 high.
8 high. 8 high.
Let's be honest. You can beat that. Nice. Hello.
Quick call with ace high.
Good. Well played. Well played. Well played.
Well,
I swear to God, I try every single turn.
the way the hand played out.
I mean, this was like world class. He bluffs ace high and then realized he has the best hand and just
I honestly was value betting my ace
Yeah,
high.
it wasn't bluffing.
I literally never.
I swear I thought I was value betting my ace high.
Yeah.
value bet call.
Nice induce.
Well, if I think I'm
Nice
good in
induce.
value betting, I gotta call.
Yep, of course. Yeah. That's how it works.
Worth saying that last hand got Max Altegar up to nearly $1 million there. He's just going to limp here.
Limpy limpy again.
Vanessa not gonna give in to it twice in a
No. None shall limp. There's a raise to 81,000 that's been quite quickly called here. Five, king, 5.
I check.
Check to the aggressor. It's not really a drawy board here.
Interesting. It's so hard. Like, it's so hard to figure out what Max has here. You know. limp calls. What's strong enough to limp call out of position that you can raise with, or 3-bet shove with.
It's a very small bet from Vanessa.
Yeah, really.
The 3-bet
dry
was to
boards.
81, and she bets 42 on the flop. Is there any need to bet that big here? Because there's not really
No.
any draws out there. So he's
The
either got some showdown value or some sort of value hand or nothing at all.
The board does the work for her and her position.
Yeah. That's a good thing for amateurs to learn, is to really sort of adjust your play to the texture of the board and the scenario you're in, rather than this is the line I take with this hand, and
When people say I usually bet 3/4 of the pot, or that's a good rule to follow, I mean, you really can't do it on boards like this. There's just no need. Your good hands are not going to get enough value, and your bluffs cost too much. So it's another one of those bets that serves two purposes.
Max has called it and very quickly checked, as has Vanessa on the turn. Brings the Queen of Hearts. 261k in the pot. And an arm check from Max Aldegot.
Really weird river. If Max really has something very marginal, then Vanessa now gets another card that she might try to convince him to have.
It's another one of these hands, especially with Max involved in
Yeah.
action only on a couple of the streets.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also, it shows also the lines that people take against him. It shows also the respect for him. If people start pot controlling a lot of streets to you, that's a sign that they know you're capable of a lot of moves.
Yeah.
112,000. I bet the cameraman just love it when someone's got glasses like that. They can set up those really sexy matrix.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's my shot.
I'm going to win an award for this shot. Just look at the way that splits. It's like Morpheus. Gosh, most of level 16 is going to be gone before we even get into it.
Yeah, it was really nice of you to stay an extra hour, Lex.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, you saw the level changing, thinking, well, that's me out of here. But no, we said we'd give you one last good hand.
That's an interesting one, though, so I don't mind. It's these little situations that, dictate how many chips people get.
It does make the call. Is that ace king? Ace queen.
Wow.
So Vanessa got there on the river. Kind of play quite standard from Vanessa's point of view.
Yeah,
you would raise that, you would see bet on a dry flop like that if it's checked to you.
Yeah.
And on the button. $65k. Max is out of the way.
Vanessa doesn't give up a big blind too easily.
Oh, don't be silly. Well, the flopper's full of blockers.
Yeah.
It was a quick check, and it was a quick C bet from Dan. 75k into 165k pot.
Vanessa's got revenge on her mind. Or maybe a really big hand.
Or she,
yeah,
just sees an opportunity.
Quick check there on the turn.
Yeah.
And on the river.
Boom.
Wow. So just a straight draw there for Vanessa. Didn't get there. Jack's good for Shaq.
Not a great flop, but since he didn't re-raise, it didn't feel too bad.
Because there's a kind of thing that I may have done earlier on when you're playing against, suddenly you sat down with someone you know is really good, and you make a play and they're kind of looking at you, and you kind of like just spurt out this nervousness of like, oh well, I did that because of that, and, you just don't need to.
Yeah. It's classic pub poker action when people go, well, I thought you had the aces, so I thought if I kept betting then you'd fold. And you just think, do you know what? You got the chips. You got the chips. Keep to yourself. Enjoy life. Drink responsibly. Well, certainly the cameraman or lady can just stay fixed on Vanessa because she seems to be in pretty much 98% of the hands we're watching here.
Scott Seaver.
Robots in disguise. I don't know if that's where you were going, but that's where I
wasn't, but I like it.
Thanks very much.
Sorry, Scott, this is only for place still in the tournament. Can you vacate the area?
If you're just watching, could you move behind the ropes?
Yeah.
Don't want to rub it in, but... Well, once again, we see it was the limp. The check. Three-way to this pretty flop. Check to Max, who, to be honest, is the one that started all this business. And now with 110k in the pot.
Happy to bet the flop, gets rid of Vanessa.
Yep, 40k. And only, of course, on 470k at the start of this hand.
Also relinquishes his hand.
Yeah. Vanessa still top of this table, just shy of 3 million. Once again, unsurprisingly, in a hand with Max, the man with reflected eyes.
Yeah, so we did get confirmation there that it did have a straight. He flopped it and then was forced to fold on the river.
Dana's just pointing out, somebody tell Paul Newby to change his phone password. He just typed it in with the camera staring over his shoulder.
Wow.
Right, we will get word out to him that perhaps, I mean, to be honest, for someone to profit from that, they're going to have to quite specifically run into the tournament room, grab his phone off him, type it in and do something that's worth doing.
Better to be safe than sorry, though.
Yeah, we'll let him know that. Apparently we got a first ever tweet from John Joe Dunn, loving the poker. I'm loving the poker. Esfandiari to take it down. Stranger things have happened. That horse becoming Pope.
Quick call. Vanessa says she has the nuts.
Welcome to the nuts.
Queen 10? Oh, Jack 10, sorry, not Queen 10.
Queen 10 wouldn't really be
the
nuts as such.
I meant Jack 10.
Old school nuts.
Yeah.
Second pair's got to be good. No, I know.
Nice.
Nice.
How much is it?
At least it wasn't a very big pot.
Tony Greig has raised under the gun with pocket jacks at the feature table. Action's been folded to Vanessa in the small blind. 9-10 suited.
Yes, let's see one of those famous situations where Vanessa knows when to back off. Lol.
I'm 35.
She 3-bets. Re-raises to 135,000. Shemian folds the big blind. It's back on Greig.
I do think it was better for her to 3-bet than the cold call. She'll have the betting lead since she's out of position.
Greig sticks in an additional 75,000. And the flop is 10-8-7. Action!
Well, see you at the river.
Selbst with top pair and an open-ended straight draw. Greig with an overpair and a gut shot.
I don't think she's giving up the betting lead here with the intention of just calling a bet.
Action check to Greig.
And obviously, he's got to bet his hand.
He fires.
How much?
140,000.
I'm all in.
Vanessa shoves. She check raises all in.
Super sexy check raise semi-bluff, all in, rare. Super soul read time for Tony Gregg, but I think in a vacuum, bet folding here is not optimal. If Vanessa has an overpair, she's probably not check raising it.
Not a fan of this one.
Wow, he folds jacks.
Oh, sorry.
Outside of a vacuum, here in the real world, it was a massive spot with hundreds of thousands in real money equity on the line, so not an easy call to make.
Vanessa boosts her chip lead, now playing 3.6 million.
Basically, yeah.
Like,
you
that's
see
how
that?
you know you're a hero. Like, when you make the 37th fold in a row, you're just like,
I'm disciplined.
yeah, I have no attachment to the results of these cards. Like, these cards are not me. I am not these cards. Good reason.
And Max on the button here is, I'm surprised he even looked at his cards. You just think there's too much value in there with the blinds and antes.
I think he's already folded his small blinds.
Really?
All in.
All in.
All in. Good luck, Max.
Call.
Call.
Let us not forget, Ole
How much?
Shimeon's got nearly 1 million now in here on the big blind for 40k already.
Does he want to call? Does he want to isolate?
Yeah, the fact that Vanessa took a little while to make her decision, you wonder exactly what kind of, what vibe is that meant to feed to Ole.
We saw her do that before with Ace King, didn't she? When there was, you know, players behind her.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
I don't really know what Ole can kind of be considering here. It's not like he's going to magically get much information. You know, what do you put Max on? What do you put Vanessa on? I mean, the thing is to say, is Vanessa strong because she just calls with him behind? Is she?
Yeah, I think he's, you know, obviously he's figuring out what Vanessa's doing rather than Max is going to be shoving wide. So.
Oh yeah, Max is out of the equation, but so you know, I don't know if he's going to really come to any brainstorm moments here.
Just could be in a really tricky spot with a hand like, you know, ace 9, ace 10. It's a hand if he does shove with and he gets called with, he could be in really bad shape. But he's ahead of a lot of Vanessa's calling range.
I guess also there's the fact, does he want to protect the chips he's got if he feels good that Vanessa can knock out Max and they move to 9-handed? He is indeed going to come along.
Heads up on the side.
3 diamonds, 10 deuce jack.
Interesting.
Still action between Vanessa and Ole if they want it.
Check, check. Check, check again.
Yeah, no real surprise to see this go down. Queen high is the shout. He must have been quite excited when that 8 came down on the turn. Ace 9, pocket 7.
Wow. So it's Vanessa's hand again, ace 9. Pocket 7s, you can kind of think why Ollie was thinking in the big blind there.
Yeah. But it just kind of thinking, do I make more of this hand, or would I just, me and Vanessa, we just check this through and we see if we can get rid of Max?
Possibility of runner flush and split pot.
Who seem to have position on Vanessa, which just means that they can perhaps, I mean, she's going to, you know, open really wide and open a lot of pots, and, you know, they're going to have to fold some, but at least, you know, when she folds, they can still open, whereas if she's on their left, they have to kind of consider maybe just folding some hands that they would normally open, just because she's going to probably be quite aggressive with both calling and 3-betting. And yeah, I mean, as everyone who's watching can imagine, it's a really big bubble, and there's, you know, with 3 short stacks, the medium stacks are going to have to be quite careful, and they should be. It's not because they're just being too scared about the money. It's really because it's the correct decision to
mathematically, ICM
right.
wise.
They have to be aware of that.
Yeah, don't forget David Yan with us. If you've got any questions for him, make the most of him, just in case things wrap up quickly. Don't forget hashtag EPT Live, nuts at poststars.tv for email. But it looks like the word on our Twitter is it's pretty much an even split between support for Antonia Esfandiari and Vanessa Selbst. So we'll see. Everyone's got a favourite. Everyone's still in with a chance to take down this big prize, 1.6 million.
It's a very, very, very big 3-bet. She raised the 80,000 and he decided to make it 350.
To be fair to Dan, he's been playing Vanessa about as well as anybody that we've seen today. A lot of other people who've been having trouble, but
don't want to play a hand.
Oh, we have pocket kings. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. It just means he doesn't really, he knows he has to raise his hand just because it's so far ahead of her range and he can get value, but at the same time, he doesn't particularly want to see a flop or maybe get all in pre-flop just because he, I guess even he kind of cares about cashing.
Yeah.
It's a combination of the money. I mean, I assume that's a little bit less of a factor for him just because, poker isn't really his main source of income, I guess. And I think...
You guess right.
Yeah, I mean, we like a lot of players, like just friends and I were talking about this, and I think a lot of people just think that, recreational players, I mean, I'm not saying he's specifically a recreational player, but, people who aren't playing for a living often, they still care, like, not only because of the money, but they want to challenge themselves to play correctly, and they also, I think the pride and the experience of, cashing, basically, and, adding those scores to Hinden Mob, it's kind of like a video game and stuff, so...
Yeah, I think definitely, because in his professional life, he's been there and he's done it. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's one of the best at what he does.
Yeah.
And, what got him there was that drive and that, hitting, setting himself goals and stuff. So he just... You get used to being that type of person, so you can't just suddenly switch that off.
Right, and it's cool, I mean, because he definitely does, like, in a lot of situations, sometimes when he feels like it, he just, he doesn't really get too scared money, and he's willing to apply the pressure even when he's like a medium stack. He's willing to 3-bet. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he had turned over a bluff there. I mean, maybe I wouldn't have expected him to show, but if he really had a bluff when he 3-bet there, I wouldn't have been too shocked, because he's the kind of player who I think, is willing to take a stand. And I mean, he takes some tricky lines sometimes. For example, earlier he led 3 streets into Ola and he shoved Ola Shimyon and he shoved the river, and I think Ola probably folded a pretty decent hand, and it puts him into a pretty tough spot, whether he had it or not. So I think it's quite interesting how he plays sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa's raise up to 80k. Being called by Ole, but
When she playing?
no one else looks like they're too interested.
Yeah, I think his range is going to be she's going to be very wide just because she's the chip lead on the bubble with a lot of short stacks and so on. But I think he's going to be kind of tight here, I think. I mean, just because, he's kind of one of the medium stacks, and calling and folding to C-bets and so on is going to damage his stack a little bit. So I think he's going to have a lot of hands that are quite strong, but maybe perhaps don't want to 3-bet. So, for example, he could have hands like ace-queen or pocket 10s or pocket 9s or, even jacks or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he decides, I mean, I'm not saying he's definitely doing this, but there's a chance that he just decides that he doesn't want to really 3-bet because he's probably not really going to want to bluff too much with the stack size, so he might decide to also flat aces and kings, and that's for deception, and also allows him to perhaps, when he's got like weaker hands like 7s, it means she can't just automatically fire off on every board because he's also going to have strong hands.
Yeah, and if he has aces or kings and he does 3-bet pre, then with Vanessa's range so wide in this spot on the bubble that you're going to lose so much value by 3-betting your...
I think she's going to fold a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas when he flats it, she's going to bet she's going to value a bit worse hands, and she's going to bluff and so on.
So he called Vanessa's 105,000 C-bet pretty quickly.
Right. I mean, that being said, he might just think that she's going to be loose enough to 4-bet that he might still 3-bet aces. Yeah, and the C-bet was quite small, I think. It was like about just under third pot.
What? Well, I was kind of short and it was kind of...
No, she bet 105,000 into 265.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess she would probably bet this board pretty wide, maybe even with her whole range, and I think most of the hands that Ola calls pre-flop probably won't fold the flop. I mean, he occasionally might decide to just give it up with like maybe ace-jack suited or something like that if he decides it's going to be difficult on the turn and river, but other than that, I think a lot of his pairs are going to continue.
165 into 475,000.
And in general, I would say, I mean, whilst he definitely can have some air or like, some draws or semi-bluffs, he generally won't go too crazy here just because it really sucks when she decides to call or to jam in terms of his stack size, because it puts him amongst the other short stacks. So, and I think the interesting thing is she probably realizes this as well, so I mean, it does mean that he could bluff, and since his range is kind of strong already, if he decides to bluff with the hands, the few bluffs he could have, it's probably going to work a lot of the time. But I think the bubble is going to change that quite a lot. I think everyone's going to be a little bit tighter than they normally would be, except for maybe the biggest stacks. And then once the bubble bursts, I think you'll start seeing that, you know, people are going to open wider and people will start three-betting a lot more again.
Yeah, I would imagine, unless the chip dynamics change drastically from where they are now, is that the first thing that kicks off tomorrow when everyone's in the money is there'll be a lot of action for the first couple of levels for the boys until it settles down with chips. But right now it's Vanessa min raising, folding all the way around to Antonio on the button. It looked like he really wanted to get involved with that, but I thought better of it.
It would have been kind of interesting if he played with his chips like that, then decided to raise, or call, I guess. I mean,
Next time I'll tell you, okay?
Thank you.
Ace, deuce, king, rainbow. Action's going to be on Selbst first. She checks, sorry.
yeah, I would expect it a bit here really wide, but at the same time, if she thinks about it, there are a lot of hands that Antonio calls with pre-flop which aren't folding on this flop, especially if he, you know, realizes that she's betting so wide. So he might even call with hands like pocket sixes or something if he has it. And that being said, she could also just have a hand that doesn't really want to bet. So for example, if she's got like a king or something, maybe she just thinks it's better to check and decide what to do.
Even a small ace, would you?
Yeah, I mean, she could definitely sometimes check it. Just because there's not that much value, and she usually can't get multiple streets. But it looks like she just decided to check fold, which I think is definitely, I think she definitely should do this sometimes. I think in general, especially against good players, you shouldn't bet 100% of your range on almost any situation. Like there are a few that you maybe should, but you know, situations like that, and like I said, specifically against a good player who's going to realize what you're doing, it's definitely good to like sometimes just check and give up.
Matt Glantz in the cutoff has ace deuce.
Matt's second in chips, remember.
He's raising, a min raise to 80,000. Paul Newey in the small blind. We'll probably fold that.
Matt, how much did you start with?
Two maybe?
Vanessa Selbst with pocket jacks in the big blind.
I think a just call here would be super quiche.
She does just call.
It's deceptive and it keeps you from any weird spots where you get it all in pre-flop with the next biggest stack of the table.
The flop is 9-8-5, jack's still ahead.
When you have jacks and you see all numbers come out, how happy are you?
Vanessa checks to the pre-flop aggressor. Matt Glantz continues for 105,000.
Probably feels like he has to continue since he whiffs so hard, but he shuts down once he gets called.
Vanessa calls. 435,000 in the middle. The board pairs on the turn. It's the 5 of clubs.
Oh, and Vanessa's gonna lead, and I love it. You can still get value out of top pair, and you can protect against a hand with equity getting a free card against you.
Vanessa bets 195,000.
Probably a good time for Matt to just give this up.
He hasn't folded yet.
Oh, no.
Glantz raises to 490k.
I think this raise is going to look like it is full of beans. There aren't many hands Matt would raise here for value, especially not over pairs. I think Vanessa's calling here almost 100% of the time.
She does call, and we are going to the river with 1.4 million in the middle.
Why is it always the two biggest stacks doing this?
7 on the river. Vanessa checks.
Not a very good river for Vanessa. I think Matt's supposed to bomb it here, but I still think there's a pretty good chance he gets called.
He's thinking about it.
Just how much beans does he want to be full of?
He checks behind. Vanessa shows jacks for the win.
And Matt might be regretting getting a little fancy with so many short stacks at the table. Whoops.
Blinds are up to 30-60, which means Mike McDonald is one of 3 players at the table with fewer than 8 big blinds. Esfandiari raises with ace-3, makes it 120k.
He's got the stack to open this hand if he wants.
Newey is among the super short stacks. He folds the button. Ace-jack for Vanessa Selbst in the small blind. The chip leader calls.
Even with a huge stack, Vanessa playing this cautiously.
Dan Shack with 9-10 of clubs in the big blind, and he calls as well for an additional 60,000.
He's getting great immediate pot odds with suited connectors, and he's actually the favorite 3-ways.
3-way to the flop, which gives Vanessa top pair, second pair for Dan Shack, plus a flush draw, plus a backdoor straight draw.
Oh boy, this could get uglier than Quato from Total Recall.
Well, it doesn't look like Vanessa intends to play in flow. She leads for 165,000.
To just call pre-flop from the small blind and then lead here, Vanessa's range is rarely nothing.
$400.
Dan Shack raises to 400,000, gets an insta-fold from Antonio Esfandiari.
This board is super wet, which is going to make Vanessa not worry so much about sets and 2 pairs. If Dan had a super monster and Vanessa let into him, wouldn't he probably just call and let her lead again on the turn? It's free money. So no, I don't see Vanessa folding top pair, top kicker here.
Call.
She calls. There is now 1.25 million in the middle. Huge pot building here on the bubble, and there are 3 guys at the table running on vapor. The board pairs on the turn. Vanessa now a 3-1 favorite. She checks.
All in.
And Shack shoves!
OMG ICM suicide. I commend Dan Shack for having stones so big. They are now considered the islands of the Bahamas, but this bluff is risking crazy amounts of real money against a person with a stupid strong range.
I call.
Vanessa calls! And Dan Shack is at risk of bubbling the super high roller.
What a ridiculous sweat. Everyone is just giddy with the prospect of making the money. It's like they're 8 and someone announced a pizza party.
The short stacks don't believe it.
Yeah, these two, not quite as giddy. What an unnecessarily huge pot.
Dan Shack does have 11 outs. He can hit a club or a 10 on the river. It's a 10!
That was not supposed to happen. He's doing a victory lap. He's coming back.
Dan Shack doubles up and takes the chip lead from Vanessa Selbst.
I just didn't think you'd...
Dan, don't say anything. Don't. Too late.
I just lost like 2 million chips. I lost 2 million chips. Dan got me on the river, yeah. He pushed on the turn, I called, and he had 11 outs. Yeah. I just lost 2 million chips. No. He raised, and then he just jammed on a bluff, or like a semi-bluff, and I called.
And he got there. That's the crucial part of the story, Miranda. He got there.
How does Vanessa always find herself in these situations on TV tables?
Particularly brutal for her, not so much because she might bubble now, but because she was in such a great spot to win this tournament.
Nice handshake. No. Bad hand.
Ryan LaPlante says, really want to see either Antonio Esfandiari or Vanessa Selbst lock up this win. Antonio's going to get us started on the first hand of the final table. Action folded to him in the cutoff, and he raises to 130,000 with Queen 5 of spades. Vanessa Selbst in the big blind.
Antonio really choosing to get things started here. This isn't really a legit hand. They are 7-handed, so it's almost short-handed play, but this is still a little loose. And Vanessa defending with a suited 1-gapper.
9-7 of diamonds and a Queen 8-4 flop with 2 clubs. Top pair for Antonio.
Not much there for Vanessa to be crazy about. She checks. See if Antonio chooses to continue here.
$145,000 into the pot of 360K.
And we're about to see how creative Vanessa's going to be. This could set the tone for the day, and she plays it perfectly fine, which is to fold. No pair, no draw. No creativity from her just yet.
First pot of the day goes to Antonio Esfandiari.
Yeah, you would assume that once Matt gets out of there, you know, just no offense to Matt, but he's the shorty now, that things could get a little weird. Once everyone's got pretty even stacks, they're going to have about 60 big blinds each, and they're fantastic players, and it'll be really crazy short four-handed action.
And by the way, those 8 big blinds will only be 8 big blinds for another 5 minutes, because then we go up to 40-80. So cross opens from the cutoff, a raise to 130,000 with ace-6. Vanessa picks up 9s on the button.
Let's see if she 3-bets or just calls. Looks like a 3-bet.
The re-raise is to 280,000. Bart says disappointed Shemian didn't skateboard out of the tournament. Health and safety, Bart. Health and safety.
Taken out by the crossing guard.
Remember to tag your tweets, EPT Live. Emails should go to nuts@pokerstars.tv. Cross folds to the 3-bet. And Vanessa Selbst wins the 3rd hand of the day, the first hand of 5-handed play. Antonio under the gun. Ace-7 off. He raises.
Oh. Uh-oh, Maddie. What's it gonna be, homie? Jack 10 for Glance. Be pretty surprised if he didn't go with this, and he does.
How much is it?
He shoves. 320,000. Vanessa Selbst in the small blind.
That is enough for a 3-bet.
Ace-Jack. She's got both Glance and Esfandiari dominated.
Man, she's pretty likely to think she has the best hand here.
Andrew Badicker's a fan of the puns, Joe. He says, loving the cross pun stapes, keep them coming.
I'm a fan of Andrew Badiker. Works out.
The match rant says, if you are playing the cross pun drinking game, you must be hammered right now. The story mostly checks out. So Glance's shove, as Joe observed, is a legitimate re-raise, giving Vanessa the potential to 4-bet here.
If she does 4-bet, she's very likely to eliminate the hand she's dominating. Oh, but don't forget, we got Dan Shack still to act.
605,000 total from Vanessa. And folds from both Shaq and Esfandiari. So Matt Glance finds himself at risk. Jack 10 against Ace-Jack.
320?
Not a bad spot against your hand.
So hand 7 of the final table. And now we find Matt Glance at risk with just 27% equity.
I misspoke. Vanessa got rid of the big stack she was dominating. Obviously, she has Glance dominated as well. Antonio would have hit a 7.
A low flop that doesn't help Matt Glance. Ace high still leads. Glance looking for a 10 on the turn or river. There are, of course, some chop pot possibilities.
Wow, Antonio must be tilting so hard right now.
Eliminate the chops. It's all about the 7% chance of hitting a 10 on the river for Matt Glance. A 93% chance, therefore, that he goes broke here. I say broke, but he does walk away with $445,520 for his 5th place finish in this super high roller. And just like that, we are down to the final 4.
And another monster here for Vanessa, ace-king suited.
Action folded her on the button, and she raises. Makes it 160K. It's a min raise.
And the action's kind of played itself out such that we haven't really been able to establish a dynamic yet. And maybe now that there's no more legit short stacks, we'll start to see a bit of a dynamic develop.
So Antonio defends with a dominated hand and hits a 5 on the flop. He checks to Vanessa, and she checks behind with ace-king high. 9 of clubs on the turn. Antonio's still ahead with 3rd pair. Got enough ice in that drink, Dan? Antonio now leads the turn with the best hand. On that previous hand, short stack Seamus says good fold by Antonio after his quass examination. Daniel has a request states, please let us know when Fabian quasses the 4 million chip mark.
You guys know when you send these in, you take them away from me, right? We're told that young lady on the rail is Anna Shack.
Quick hello to Hans. He says, finally off work. PCA, here I come. Obviously, prime time viewing for those of you in Europe.
And it looks like folding a hand as big as ace-king suited is going to be difficult for Vanessa here on the turn. And that stack is more than a call.
It's a raise to 490K. Putting the pressure on Antonio, who's got a marginal hand.
I don't think Vanessa expects to have the best hand here all the time, but I do think that maybe she thinks she can get Antonio to fold exactly the kind of hand he's got.
Brian's obviously just joined the party. He tweets to say, I guess missing the first 15 minutes was a bad idea. Yeah. 3 bust outs in the first 7 hands of the day. One of them in a single hand, just the second hand of this final table.
Technically, this final table had its first bust out before the first hand was even dealt today. Double bust out last night.
How much is it for me?
An additional 310,000, Antonio.
And Antonio's in a weird spot here because I think most of the time when Vanessa does this, when Antonio is ahead, he's not going to have as much equity as he does right now.
We mentioned earlier on that today is day 1A of the main event. Quite a lot of people asking about when late registration closes on the main event. Today, day 1A, tomorrow, day 1B. Late registration for the PCA main event will close at noon on day 2, which is Thursday, the 9th of September. So you have until midday Eastern on Thursday, the 9th of September to register for the 10K main event. As Antonio folds there, and Vanessa wins another pot and extends her chip lead at this final table. Now up to nearly 4.8 million.
And that was just an excellent hand by Vanessa. You know, she knew exactly how to exert the pressure. We do see her get caught in those spots sometimes. But in this particular one, she played aggressively, did what you're supposed to do there, and just put Antonio in a bad spot, and he was forced to let it go. I don't know how to tell you this, but
2.2.
Beth Jack isn't the wife anymore.
Alimony.
Awkward.
Esfandiari's open to 175k and has run into the ace-10 suited of Vanessa Selbst. Vanessa clearly considering a 3-bet from the big.
That was a huge one on the turn.
I thought you were going to.
On the turn?
Well, it looked like you were either going to raise or I didn't.
No. He had a flush draw and a straight draw. No, I had nothing. I just had a pair of 5s.
Vanessa elects to defend. She calls and we go to the flop, which
Well.
gives Vanessa Broadway. Flop in the joint. Nice.
And Antonio may not be able to get into too much trouble on this board, though.
Sorry, I wasn't slow rolling, but when you turn your card,
No. Obviously, I knew it was beat.
I didn't muck him straight down.
I was hoping he would just.
Vanessa decides to play out of flow and lead at this. Hoping that she can level Antonio into sticking around and not let him have the opportunity to check back for a free card, but he doesn't go. He doesn't bite.
Vanessa moves over 5 million. The first player to hit the 5 million mark in this tournament. It doesn't say in the product description whether it does have AirPlay, and obviously as there's no Apple TV unit around, I don't know whether you'll actually see the symbol. But certainly you can connect your iPad to the TV using an HDMI lead and watch it that way. And I think that's how many people decide to watch EPT Live on like a 65-inch plasmas. Tony Montana style in a big bath with a cigar. By the way, for those of you who speak German, we've got high roller, super high roller reg, Phil Gruesome, Phil Bort, commenting on the German stream right now alongside Martin Pott. So if you speak German, you might want to check out that German language stream.
James, look, I'm watching the stream on my phone and I'm watching the stream on my screen.
Sigh. Vanessa raising under the gun. Fabian Cross defends his big blind.
I don't see an option to AirPlay it on my little app here.
Cross still with the best hand. Not that he's to know it though. Queen high. Yeah, but you wouldn't see the symbol unless there was an Apple TV unit that could receive it within Wi-Fi distance.
As usual, you, sir, are correct.
Continuation bet from Vanessa Selbst. Get the job done. That was the moment. Vanessa Selbst took down the 25k high roller at last year's PCA, and here she is 12 months later looking to add a super high roller title and trophy to her resume.
Cross limps the small ace tray.
Vanessa with sixes in the big blind. By the way, a few people telling us that the app does indeed have AirPlay, and a lot of people are using AirPlay to watch EPT Live via their Apple TV unit on a big screen.
Cool.
Thanks, guys, for getting in touch. Thanks for helping out Jakob.
Thanks for having us, buddies. I don't think Fabian's limping here very often with the intent of folding.
The raises to 215,000. It'll cost him an additional 135k to call, and that's what he does. So blind on blind heads up to the flop. Ace, 9 deuce, top pair for Kwas.
Kwas checks. Vanessa checks behind. 10 on the turn.
Kwas checks a second time. Vanessa may feel compelled, but no, she checks as well.
Probably already in showdown value mode after not continuing the flop.
Queen on the river. Kwas's hand still good.
Fabian finally feeling like it's safe to bet top pair.
$250,000.
Vanessa really with just a bluff catcher. And she lets it go.
And of course, it's not just about covering the facts of the tournament, it's also about finding the stories within. And was hearing about a guy that Howard was interviewing this morning, a guy from New Zealand who's traveling abroad for the first time, having won his seat in the PCA main event in an $11 qualifier. And it's that kind of story is why we are in this business. That's why we love poker.
It's fascinating. I talked to a guy last night, his name's George, who won a 100% free roll, and he's from Winnipeg. And he's come down here by himself and is excited that he said he's picked up a tell on Daniel Negreanu.
Let's pick up the action here because we've got two big hands. Vanessa Selbst has raised to 160,000. Antonio Esfandiari has 9s in the big blind. He 3-bets to 430,000.
How much did you start the hand with?
2.4 million.
Are we going to see a giant race here?
I have 1.9. About 1.9 and a half behind.
Behind the 4.
So 2.4.
Don't think Antonio is 3-bet folding a hand like 9s very often. If ever.
I also don't think Vanessa's folding ace-king. So
it kind of seems inevitable where this is going, right?
I'd have a hard time being Antonio looking at my big head just over Vanessa's head, looking back at myself during a situation like this.
No, I think he's fine with it.
And that's why you're the professional, Joe.
His head's getting bigger.
Every day. Just kidding, Antonio. Just kidding.
There's the 4-bet from Vanessa. $780,000. And if we had the red triangles here at the PCA, I imagine Antonio will be requesting one about now.
By the way, I have spoken to Neil Johnson and can confirm the triangles will be at the 2015 PCA.
Thank God.
Come on, Antonio, click it back.
Come on.
He shoves. Vanessa reluctantly calls. Ace-king against nines. There is a classic race underway at the final table of the Super High Roller.
A classic, sickening, disgusting race for hundreds of thousands of dollars in real money equity.
I don't know if you could do that.
Please. Okay? Please.
Well, Brady's doing
Is he
it.
ready? Just make sure you get your... Feel good, okay? Feel good.
Suffice to say, Antonio needs nines to hold here.
I can't take it. What am I just can't take it.
Me next, Antonio. Come on.
I'm feeling uncomfortable.
It's a low flop, but it does give Vanessa a wheel draw.
Wheel draw, backdoor diamonds, I think.
7. 7 jack. Jack 7.
Not to mention the aces and the kings.
I guess I would take it.
Oh, ace on the turn.
And it's a diamond, which I think gives Antonio only one out.
He needs the 9 of spades on the river, or we're down to 3.
Leg 3.
Ah, good game, guys.
This is what happens when you give a man a massage at the table.
I'll allow it. I'm fine with it.
It's the 5 of clubs. So we lose Antonio Esfandiari in 4th place. He collects $575,920. Remember, Antonio was in for 2 bullets. He invested 200K, so his profit is just over 375,000. I tell you what, it's made of sturdy metal, and once you're in that thing, there's no getting out. It actually looks like the kind of cell that you would put a villain in.
There's no getting out unless you sit there for an orbit.
Now, this was inevitable because the players moved seats. We are going to have a few graphics glitches for the next orbit or so. So this is Vanessa raising under the gun, even though Vanessa has been afforded the face of Matt Glantz.
Vanessa does keep her hair very short, but not that short.
Dan Shack folds the small blind. Fabian Cross in the big blind. And he calls. The flop, Queen 6-3. And this is kind of a sweat hand for us as we try and resolve those graphics issues.
Fabian checks. Vanessa also checks.
5 of clubs on the turn. And a reminder of the stack situation now. Fabian is the shortest stack at the table with 2.4 million. Shaq second on the leaderboard with 4.2 million, and Vanessa leads with 7.3 million. And the Moondust chips, the 100k chips, are now in play. So we've got the Deep Lagoon, 5,000 chips, the Moss Garden 25k chips, and the Moondust 100k chips.
You mean Quas Garden?
Wow, you've no idea how excited the Twitterverse is to see the Moondust chips in play. It's the little things in life, Brad. Queen Jack in the small blind for Fabian. Confirmation, by the way, that we are taking a break at the end of this level. Blinds will go up after the break to 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 ante. Adam says, I didn't think this Super High Roller final table would dwindle down to 3 this quickly. Still solid poker entertainment, though. I think most of us did suspect it would be pretty quick, due to the nature of yesterday being so darn long.
Quas limping again, small to big. Last time he did it with a baby ace. This time 2 paint cards.
Vanessa checks her option with 10 deuce. And Fabian flops top pair.
Pretty nice top pair too. And he makes another bet for 100K.
One would think this is a pretty easy fold for Vanessa. Unless she decides to get creative, in inverted commas.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Well, now this is a raise, and Vanessa is raising with the worst of it, by far the worst of it, but that doesn't mean that it has to go any further than this. Obviously, Fabian's not folding, so with whatever he does, whether he decides to raise back or just call here, maybe Vanessa just gives up. Fingers crossed for her. For putting many more chips in this pot would be questionable.
Considering Fabian's stack size with top pair here, would not be surprised if he came back over the top of this with a shove. But no, decides to try and extract more value on future streets and just calls.
I think when you're facing someone like Vanessa and you know that she is likely to barrel off many, many, many more chips, I like to just call there.
Well, 4 of hearts on the turn gives Fabian a queen high flush draw to go with top pair. Vanessa also with a flush draw, but it ain't any good. Fabian checks. Will Vanessa follow up on that flop raise?
It's 830 in the middle. Fabian the effective stack with 1.89 behind. Here she goes.
Oh, Vanessa.
That's 380,000.
380,000.
Fabian may just call again. There aren't too many terrible cards that could come for him. He's probably okay with his queen high flush draw. $100, $300. There's 380.
Again, Fabian just calls.
And he doesn't have a ton to protect against. He knows that Vanessa could very well bomb the river. And he's probably hoping she does at this point.
So Vanessa pairs her deuce on the river. And Fabian checks again.
can't have much behind, right?
I don't think he has any intention of folding.
She just looked at his stack and determined that very thing, I think.
And there's 1.6 in the middle. He started with 1.9.
She gives up, she checks. And top pair, good for Kwas as Vanessa mucks. And he needed that, up to 2.7 million. Vanessa down to 6.4 million, still the chip leader. Button raise from Kwas with ace-8. Vanessa Selbst with 8-7 in the small blind.
Little domination situation.
In response to your comment about races, Andrew says Usain Bolt wins quite a few races. Lol. So Vanessa 3 bets with her unsuited connectors. Shaq folds the big, it's back on Kwas.
Fabi knows Vanessa's capable of free betting light here, as she is fairly light right now.
Mullen.
He shoves, and she quickly folds. So Fabian chipping up. Hand 27 of the final table, 50 100k blinds, 10k ante. Dan Shaq on the button. Jack 7 of diamonds. He raises to 200,000. Kwas folds the small.
That was awesome. Someone please put that on a highlight reel. Claude, did you see that? He kind of gave like the Shooter McGavin like double finger point after he folded. It was very slick.
I need to see it on the highlights reel because I missed it, darn it. Vanessa defends with 6-5 and pairs a 6 on the flop. She checks to Shaq. Shaq who checks behind. Ace of spades on the turn. Peter points out on Twitter that Dan Shaq's voice is just so perfect.
Yeah.
With no continuation bet from Dan on the flop, Vanessa leads the turn. Bobby Rooney says, I like Shaq's play overall, but betting threes on the river is criminal. What does he put Kwas on there? Deuces? King high?
I'm not sure what Dan's thinking about here either. I'm a little worried when Vanessa checks that flop and then leaves the turn. Yeah, there you go.
In all seriousness, obviously that's a great achievement for Daniel.
I mean, I think Daniel deserves to win just about every award there is in poker, but it is a little ridiculous that we named a player of the decade in 2014. I'd like to think that it was from the years, 2001 to whatever it adds up to, 2011 or 2010, and it just took us 4 years to come to the decision.
Someone was sitting there with an abacus trying to work out who performed best in tournaments.
Dude, an abacus is faster?
Vanessa Selbst raises the button with Queen 7 and faces a 3-bet from Dan Shaq with Ace King in the small blind. Maybe Lee Jones will join us later today for an edition of Lee's Lowdown. And Lee will give you all the info you need about that.
Quas once again limping the small blind, this time with Jack 5 suited. Vanessa coming in for a raise with Ace 7 off. You know, Pratush, why don't you keep your logic to yourself?
Yeah, Pratush Badiga actually makes a good point on Twitter. Making 2004 to 2013 a decade is pretty reasonable in poker, since that's post-moneymaker boom, when the game changed completely. Parquet Kings for Fabian Cross.
I think he just said the table was torturing him. Now might be his turn.
He raises the button and may have a customer in Vanessa Selbst who's got 8-10 suited.
Oh yeah, 8-10 suited. This is pretty much the top of Vanessa's range.
Harris sends greetings from Kosovo, and we send greetings back to Kosovo. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate anyone in Europe watching this to the end. Appreciate it's getting late and it is a school night. So the 3-bet from Vanessa is to 475,000. Shaq folds the big blind, back on Fabian. He started the hand with 2.9 million.
And this is interesting. Does he put in another bet, or does he just flat here and let Vanessa barrel off like she did before? Vanessa's out of position, so she may fold hands like this to another bet sometimes. Looks like he is going for the 4-bet. Hoping that Vanessa's got a hand for once.
$950,000.
And maybe it's a safe bet against Vanessa, because sometimes she's going to have a hand and sometimes she's just not going to want to give up the non-hand that she has. Vanessa checking out her implied odds. Ferranda asks, I have a question. How can you beat kings when it's played by a German? Answer, you can't. Vanessa just calling out of position with 10-8 suited.
Wow.
Ruh-roh. Griffin Benger's had an epiphany, by the way. King's Quas. He announces with exuberance.
Queen 7-5, only one heart on board. Vanessa checks.
Vanessa's got plenty of backdoors. And after playing this pot to 4-bet status, she may be reluctant to fold this flop, even though it doesn't look like a good flop for her. And Quas with only a pot-sized bet behind. And this is really a pretty awesome flop for two kings. Boss bets a quarter of this pot, 500K, and a quarter of his stack. After investing this much, I wonder if Vanessa thinks she could still get him to fold.
Francesca urges on Twitter, fold, Vanessa, fold. She heard you, Francesca. She folded. 5 million for Shaq, the slight chip leader. 4.9 million for Vanessa Selbst, who's got ace-queen suited on the button here. And just over 4 million for Fabian Quas. It's everyone now with more than 40 big blinds. And this is raise and take it for Vanessa. Neither of whom cash.
Selbst limping with ace tray. Shaq checks his king high. It's pretty standard for both players.
Jack 8-4 on the flop.
I think Vanessa knows she's going to have the best hand a lot. Dan will have the best hand sometimes, but they both check. 7 on the turn. Shaq picks up a gut shot.
By the way, the free roll is now running. The free roll is underway, so good luck to everyone who's playing.
Check, check again. And looks like it's going to go check, check all the way down. Ace high, pips king high. Shift the teeny tiny pot to Vanessa.
Yay. Sneaky limp.
See, in a situation like that, especially with these three guys, they're convinced they're all the best of those.
Sure. You
My
have to
stack
be the
plus
enter.
momentum equals your stack, so we can just chop it.
This might has potential to
You're going to get a no from here for sure.
to go a little.
Maybe not.
So Quas kicked things off with a raise here to 200K. Vanessa 3-betting her pocket threes. Dan Shaq with a decision. Queen Jack.
And he's back to drinking.
He's getting through those drinks pretty quick. Action back on Quas.
There's no way he's folding. The question is whether he's going for a 4-bet or he's just calling, and because we're down to 3-handed. On the other hand, you don't really feel that comfortable ever with the ace-10, right? Like, because you've got no idea what you're up against. Let's say he's unlucky and up against the ace-king, but there's no way he's folding that hand 3-handed.
No, I think there's also the fact that, like, you know, he's in position, so there's an argument to call
Exactly.
with ace-10, but how often are you going to miss the flop?
I'm guessing the call is as you said, because of the position. And he knows, wow.
Set of threes for Vanessa.
Thank God for Fabian, it's not 10-3 deuce.
Vanessa with the pre-flop betting lead and with the best hand by far. 1 million in the middle. Quas the effective stack with 2.9 million behind.
And if you remember the last time she flopped really huge, which was the Broadway nut straight, she led the flop. I'm wondering if she's considering doing the same thing again.
Well, I would think so, because let's say I was playing with her. It's so obvious she's going to lead with that hand because she potentially could have ace king too, and I would get very suspicious if she didn't lead.
After being the pre-flop
Exactly.
pre-flop aggressor, sure. In this case, it makes a lot more sense because it is a continuation bet.
Exactly, and here, Fabian hasn't really gotten any further in how good his hands stand, because who says Vanessa couldn't do this with 8-9 suited?
Then she very well could.
So I'm most likely thinking Fabian's going to call this one. I highly doubt he's going to lay this one down.
Soren gets in touch on email to say, guys, Theo is definitely the best guest commentator. Such great energy between you guys. That must be great for Stapes. There's finally a guy who thinks his jokes are hilarious.
They are. I can't. Well, the joke has to be that nobody else finds them. Maybe it's on because it's on such a high level.
I wouldn't say nobody else, Theo. There's a few people out there.
Nobody as prestigious as Theo Jorgensen.
No, of course not.
So a jack on the turn after Theo makes the call. Theo picking up the gut shot straight draw on the turn. Soren also had a question which we'll get to after this hand's played out.
If she leads out again, he's going to be able to lay it down, because it's a pretty strong call, because Fabian could have told us a story that he's got king jack, king queen, king 10, and so when he calls there on the flop and she leads again on the turn, he can feel so much more confident that his hand is not the best if she leads again on there. Now here. On the other hand, if she checks to go for a check raise, he's going to check behind, so she's basically just giving him free card to hit the inside straight.
Yeah, I think that she's going to keep betting here most of the time. I think she would do that with a lot of her hands that aren't this good, so she would do it here also. And also, you know, it's really important. A lot of people like to slow play their sets, but you have to build a pot.
Exactly. And some less experienced than Vanessa might think, okay, well, this is such on a rainbow flop with deuce 3 king. I might check because I'm afraid to lose the guy, but it doesn't make any sense that she's not c-betting there if she was bluffing, and that's what makes experienced players like Fabian getting very suspicious. Here I'm expecting him to lay it down because his call on the flop on the dry board there is such a strong call.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's definitely not the worst thing he's ever done if he calls.
Well, against someone like Vanessa, he could sometimes have the best
Still,
hand with ace 10
obviously,
high.
yes. Like, we could be sitting here and saying, well, it's such an easy call for him with ace 10, and when we were looking down in Vanessa's 9-8 suited.
So Vanessa barreling for 740,000. Remember, Fabian's playing 2.5 million.
Because even now, when I expect Fabian to lay it down, he's not going to feel, he's going to be very curious about this hand, whether he got bluffed out or not, when he sees it.
And obviously he'll have access to that information in an hour's time.
I do think this may be one of those situations, though, where there are better spots.
There is, but on the other hand, you can't keep on letting Vanessa bluff you out. And if he's confident this has a shot, he could be calling here and then laying it down on the river.
Fabian calls the 740,000.
Like, I know this looks a little stupid when we can see the cards, but seriously, Vanessa could, in a three-handed game, have pretty much the worst of it still.
6 on the river, cost with just ace high.
And it's a very strong call for him, considering the fact now there's 3.3 and he's only got 1.8 left.
Yeah, his...
He's kind of told Vanessa, well, I'm sticking with this one. So he's going to feel even more confident that his hand wasn't the best now that she moves all in.
All in.
And that's exactly what she does.
Fabian considering the hero call of all hero calls.
Yeah, but he's gonna lay it down.
Maybe he'll give Vanessa a second, see if she gives anything away physically.
Also because it's such a strong call he does on the flop and the turn that he's gonna convince himself that she hasn't beat.
Vanessa's rail, including her wife Miranda, Maria Ho, Tiffany Michelle.
Scott R just gets in touch on Twitter to say just caught up thanks to the replay function and saw Dan's toilet break. Great action and good to hear Theo's analysis as always. Remember, we've got Theo Jorgensen from Team PokerStars Pro with us in the booth.
Some pretty quick all in.
Tiger tweets EPT Live.
Now he's doing a classic me. Like he's trying to find somewhere to justify a call here. Like I'm always trying to find, well,
it's really tough, I think, to make such a huge call on the turn and then fold the river.
yeah, but you're doing it because it's such a strong call on the turn. So Fabian, I'm convinced Fabian's saying, okay, I'm doing that, and if she shoves on the river, I can lay it down and still sleep at night. And I'm convinced I'm beat.
Well, Vader Nader on Twitter says, why would he call the turn to fold the river? He's trying to be a hero, but there are bluffs that he can't beat.
There's no bluffs he can't beat. Like Vanessa is going to slow down with ace queen, which is the second lowest hand. There's no way she's betting and bluffing here.
A rail applaud, but they would have loved a hero call from Fabian Costa. He would have been out the tournament. As things stand, Vanessa reclaims the chip lead.
I'm just getting back to the point that it looks bad because we can see the cards.
Right.
And we're all thinking, why is he doing that on the turn? Why can't he lay down? Because we can see the set. But let's say we wouldn't have a clue what she has there. I could easily see myself calling there with ace-10 again because, well, first of all, it's a very strong call he does with only 1.8 left.
And I do think that Vanessa's going to shove the river when she's bluffing also. Not all the time?
No, not there. Not because it's like 3.3 with Fabian having that left. And she could be up against a set. She could like be. No, I don't see.
You don't think she's going to bluff when she's bluffing? She's not going to bluff.
She's not going to. She might bluff the first and second bullet, but she's not going to bluff there with him only having 1.8 left and 3.3 behind.
Well, Theo, I started to get to the second part of Soren's email to nuts
yeah.
at PokerStars.tv, and he actually asked, how would you approach three-handed play with the stack like crosses? The irony being that after that hand, Fabian has significantly less now, just 18 big blinds, and up against these two big stacks, 68 and 54 big blinds respectively. What are you looking for? Just a good reshove spot?
Something like that. I can't see that Fabian has done anything wrong in that hand. Yeah, he could have laid it down on the turn, but Vanessa is definitely capable of shooting 2 bullets, and he wanted to make sure that she was not bluffing. But now, with the blinds here is 5,100, and you got 1 point. What does he have? 1.8.
Yeah, started the hand with 1.8.
It's a very. He still has some plays left.
And it's these two to the flop again. Selbst flopping top pair. Quas flops a gut shot. Queen of spades on the turn.
By the way, Stapes, the poker claw has not let you down. Shoot 'em across has just been tweeted. Make sure you follow the hashtag EPT Live Twitter stream, and you'll see that wonderful little piece of animation.
I will ship that out to my followers as well. Thank you, Claw.
Jared tweets to say, I missed the triangle of death. In case you missed it earlier on, Jared, Neil Johnson has confirmed that the triangles will be at the 2015 PCA. Sadly, they didn't make it to the Bahamas this year, but they will be in action next year.
I love this. Thank you, Claw.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You guys can find that tweet from the Poker Claw by following him, obviously, or following along our conversation, hashtag EBT Live, or at Stapes. I've just retweeted it. Vanessa takes down that pot.
James just looks like he's gonna puke.
You know this one.
It's Miller's Crossing, isn't it?
James, you nailed it.
Ace-3 for Vanessa, raising the button. Fabian defense.
Well, it's time to double up.
Second pair. Vanessa with bottom pair.
Pretty good flop for 6-4.
There's no way he's getting out of that. He's hoping for a check raise now. Now it's just, they see that's very well played by Vanessa.
Card on the turn neither player can really like.
Check, check on the turn. 7 on the river.
3, 4, 6. No, just a pair of sixes for Quas.
I'm pretty sure he knows he's good. It's just whether to bet it up. Okay, he checked it.
Feeling that was handy.
I think Vanessa, looking at the cards, we know Vanessa has a hand she might call with, but
yeah,
it's kind of hard in general to get called by worse there.
Mm.
Maybe could have won it on the river.
Raise 200,000.
Ace King for Fabian. Ace King for Vanessa.
Both of them are convinced they have the nuts.
Please note that Fabian does have 2 flush draws. Vanessa only has 1.
Well, they've got that. They both got the spade flush draw for a chop.
Now we're just wasting time.
Say the words, Fabian. Say the words.
Yeah. Let's get it over.
Do it.
See if any flush draw comes.
Well, the words of
he does it. He shoves.
Yeah. Oh.
And Vanessa
call.
calls. So Ace King against Ace King. I think we know where this is going.
How do you call there, Vanessa? Come on.
Bunch of red cards.
You have 2 flush draws.
To break.
No black cards.
Dan's principal concern is there's an hour to go till the next break, and he obviously needs the toilet.
This is the ultimate test of how good I'm running, to see if I can.
It's my year, Vanessa.
He's
It's my
dying.
It's your year. Do you have plus?
2014.
That would
it's my
be
year.
amazing if you actually asked for another break.
I'm winning flips now and everything.
So here we go.
Vanessa flops a king.
Not a
As
single
does
club.
Fabian.
Wow.
Vanessa turns the king.
With trips.
Hot trips. What a waste. How good
So,
does that feel when you just...
both players with the same hand. This is going to be a chop pot. And Theo, you know what they say? Everyone loves a chop pot.
Give me ace queen.
What?
Yeah.
That's what I
So
said.
give me ace queen, yeah.
Raise 200,000.
Lord Baguette says Fabian doing things his own way, his own status quos.
And on that bombshell,
Here we go again.
I'm going to the bathroom.
Well, the money's going in now. You want to check that one out.
No, looks like Klaus just defends.
1.5.
Pretty good flop for Vanessa.
Decent flop.
And not a lot of trouble Fabian can get in here. And this just goes check, bet, fold.
I knew that.
Two nines in the
You're
mug?
not betting there when like
2 9s in the mug?
easy.
Lex Veldhouse, Tony Dunst, Phil Luck, Jen Harmon, Theo Jorgensen, Faraz Jaka, Jennifer Tilley, Phil Gruesome, and Scotty Wynn.
Cool. Love the lineup.
Great lineup. Should be two really good shows.
You know, Dwarsaw isn't playing in the shark cage, but he's participating in another little fun thing going on here at the PCA. You're playing around with the heads up for rolls.
Yes, that's a promo for which includes team online players. It started today and lasts for today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow. This is just like we did last year. So we play heads up on tablets in the players' lounge. 2 of us at a time, and anyone can do it. It's for free, and there will be.
I'm all in.
Okay, we got it all in, but I don't think Vanessa will even consider
Yeah, I
a
think
call.
we're safe to keep talking about heads up for rolls.
In this case, he must put Fabian on, I don't know, busted flush draw or some kind of busted straight draw, or just 2 high cards.
I did say we'd get some questions for you. This one from Adam. Do you think 4-table zoom or multi-tabling short-handed is better for improving my game?
If that means just for tabling, right? Because I think 4-table zoom is still equivalent to, I don't know, 15 tables of regular tables. So it's not so easy to play that many tables if someone is not used to. So I would think it depends on depends on your current scores. If it's results, if you're doing well, then you can always add like 1 or 2 tables and see how it goes.
Sure.
I think the best thing is to start just play 1, 2 tables over a nice sample and see what scores you get. And if your scores are pretty nice, then you can add some tables and get more from the VIP program.
Are you have a bankroll challenge right now too that you've been doing?
Bankroll challenge?
Yeah.
I had a challenge when I was in Thailand for the first 6 months of my stay there, which ended now in December. And but that wasn't about bankroll. That was about playing certain amount of hands with certain results. But I can say that I failed in this challenge. I made 1/3 of my goals.
Well, I'm glad I brought it up then.
Yeah. It was still a nice volume, so I don't mind.
So this is hand 56 of the final table. Apologies, by the way, for the loss of graphics. We are working on it. Vanessa raises from the button. Cross defends his big blind. Cross check calls the flop for 225,000. A 3 on the turns. The board now reading 6653. Cross checks a second time.
I love how Vanessa acts at the table. She's so tough to read.
It's relentless.
Board now double paired. 6-6, 3-3-5. Cross checks a third time. Is Vanessa going to check this to showdown?
Vanessa rarely do that. I guess she's gonna bet many of her holdings now. I missed action on the flop, but
Cross check called 225,000 on the flop.
okay, so he could have many draws. Or just call like very high cards just to see what happens on this pretty safe flop. But I think if Vanessa have any ace or even king, she should be betting now.
Just to go over the run out, it was 5-6-6-3-3. Fabian announces queen.
Yeah.
And Vanessa has an ace.
Oh.
Wow, flopped a big draw.
Didn't even barrel it.
Yeah, and the turn was nice too.
Thank you.
Added the gut shot.
Thank you. You had a flush draw?
Jojo Mojo with a quash choke that's actually thrilled me here, James. If everyone folds the Fabian in the big blind, is it a cross walk? Me likey, don't make that face. That's pretty good. We haven't gotten that one yet.
Dan says, as a straight man, I'd like to point out how beautiful Fabian Cross is. As we get a family pot on the final table, hand 59 sees Vanessa limp the button. Shaq call out of the small blind and cross check his option. Ace 7-5. Shaq with top pair.
Dan will probably earn an extra bet here. Vanessa, of course, oh, she's not betting. She's too good. But I think there's still no reason for Dan to bet. Unless someone has 5. Yeah, exactly. I think there is a chance that Vanessa will bluff at this at least once.
Scott R gets back in touch to say, Stapes, congratulations on the bluff award. Now double whammy it with a PCA free roll min cash tomorrow. Hashtag big brag.
All right, I'll do it. So Vanessa doesn't take a stab at this. Quas hits his jack on the river.
So it seems like Dan may get paid not by Vanessa, but by Fabienne. He splits with any jack and just loses to aces, 5s and flush draws. And I think flush draw we would hear from flush draw before. And as it seems like no one has ace, then I think Fabian may think it's much more probable that Dan bets jack and not ace.
Fabian calls. Dan shows the ace at showdown. And Fabian works his way up. And then comes a pot like that, and he's back down again to 2.1 million.
And because of being in Thailand, I didn't play any live events for the last 6 months, and I think I will not play any until I get back to Poland, and I will be back in April. Now it seems like I will play Estrellas and EPT in Barcelona, but I'm not so sure yet. But it seems this way. It's a long way for me to play live events.
Well, we've got De Warsaw with us in the booth. De Reflexer on Twitter says, you guys really loving the stream, but I have school tomorrow. Come on, Quas, ship it. Not sure there's going to be a swift conclusion to this thing as we go 3-way to the flop one more time. Quas's turn to limp the button.
Quas getting involved here with just 17 big blinds.
A 10-4-3 flop with 2 diamonds.
And it's interesting because that he chose to to limp on the button with almost the same hand that Vanessa did before. But I'm sure if he would raise, Vanessa would re-raise him with ace-5. But it didn't happen, so we have very similar situation to the last hand.
Dan Shack just folds a pair. Other donut shops are available. Play at Poker Stars.
We had a really nice dinner yesterday for Team Online in
at Dunkin' Donuts?
No, not exactly. A Mesa Grill in the Cove, and there was really good quesadilla over there. It was actually so good as an appetizer that I decided to split it with one of my friends because I didn't want to eat it all. Just waiting for the main course.
Just waiting for things to get finished.
Together.
Here we go, three-way again. Vanessa limping the button. 8-6-4 with 2 clubs.
Seems like a limp on the button is new race on the button. I've seen it often in some other tournaments, especially those big bind tournaments. Players seems to like it more and more.
Selbst turns an open-ender.
Nice card on the turn. What's interesting to see, there's Kos actually also have the very nice hand, maybe not very nice, but interesting hand. Yeah, but I think he will let it go. But interesting to see what Vanessa is gonna do because 5 obviously make a straight now, but she got a redraw to bigger straight, and I wonder if she's gonna raise now or just call and hope to hit or do something on the river. It's really tough to put her on the 5 though when she limped the button, so I don't think Dan would necessarily believe that. So it's mostly interesting from this point of view. What's her plan with limping on the button of hand like this? She checked the second time. She checked on the flop when she missed. Yeah, now so I think she just choose to play safe and see what happens, and doesn't necessarily use too much chips to do that.
6 on the river, 2 pair for Shack, nada for Selbst.
I think it would be the best way for Dan to get money of this. It would be to check call, because what he's gonna do if he's gonna check, if he will be bet raised here, really tough to call any raise, even if he doesn't believe in the pair.
Vanessa doesn't bite.
I thought you had a 9 and you were just. I was calling.
That is good.
You had a 9 in your hand. Thanks.
But I know that Polish commentary started in December on EPT Prague, and I know they do PCA too. Would be nice to do it with them at 1.2, but I gotta be in Poland to do that.
Shack's button raise called by Vanessa with Queen 9 in the big blind.
What about Cajun French? Vanessa has position. Domination, situation. She likes to bet with continuation.
I think it's a good spot for her to check raise with a gut shot, and of course, well, these cards usually hit someone that calls the raise, not that raise in first place. But it seems for a few hands now that she's trying to play smaller pots. I think she can safely assume that she's the best at the table, so no need for her to play really big pots until she knows there is reason for that.
Or till she feels like playing a really huge pot for no reason.
Yeah, that can happen too. I was really impressed by her play from yesterday with the ace-jack hand against, I guess that was Dan Shack's flush draw with the 9 of clubs. It seems like she knew from the start what happens in this hand, and just believe what she was trusting in.
She's run all right today, we'll say, but also I think that she's known just where she is in just about every hand she's played. It's been I want to say, other than the blow up, which hasn't happened, it's been very standard Vanessa Selbst fare. And when I say standard, I just mean incredible poker skills.
She's really amazing. I think it's no coincidence that she's there again. Well, I think now Vanessa will have to bet. It's different Queen 9 than the last time when she just decided to give up. This time she's representing either a 10, a 7, or 6. But yeah, I think Dan will call. Yeah.
Queen high.
Unfortunate from Vanessa, because many times Dan will have something like King Jack. He will have no choice. But he also plays very well today.
And
as far as
right after I said she's known exactly where she's at every hand. Thanks a lot, Selbsty.
Dan Shack reclaims the chip lead at this three-handed final table.
Not a whole lot of marketing to be done in the States at this point. We do encourage you to play that Facebook app, though.
Jakob says, wait, maybe it's a stupid question, but other language commentators, are they not actually at the PCA? The Russians and the Germans are, but everyone else is in their home country, calling the action from home.
James, I want to thank both Smitty and Teenage Kevmath. I think the EPT is on right now in both the UK and in Canada. On Sportsnet 360 in Canada, and on Channel 4 in the UK.
That's right, Channel 4 in the UK right now is airing the final table of the Super High Roller. So the first 4 episodes of the Super High Roller from EPT Barcelona are uploaded to PokerStars.tv, and the final table is on right now, which means those of you waiting for episode 5 online, the final of that tournament, it will appear on PokerStars.tv and the PokerStars YouTube channel later this week. Hand 64 of this final table, Cross limps the button, Selbst raises out of the small, 425,000. Shack thinking of doing something funky with ace-10.
I think it's actually would not be so funky. It's so many hands Vanessa would raise from on the small blind. I think that would be different situation if that would be
such a
done rising fast. I think Vanessa would repop with ace-10.
What?
Ace-9?
Rob King says, when is the structure expected to overtake the stacks? Well, as I said, Rob, we're coming to the end of level 22 and discussing this tournament before play today with Neil Johnson. He observed that no super high roller has ever gone beyond the end of level 24. So probably got a couple of more levels in this.
Johnson.
Well, if the heads up would be between Vanessa and Dan, and it seems like this for now, if Dan comes back in time, then I think it could take some time. For some reason they decided to play small pots today.
That is not a graceful run.
Selbst button raise called by Cross in the big blind. Phil Cooper's just realized that Fabian Cross is wearing the same scarf at the PCA as he did in Barcelona. Phil, it must be his lucky scarf.
I want to know how long that scarf actually is. I think it's probably like a large intestine. You just unravel it. It's like 4 miles.
Dan ran to the bad one.
Seabed takes it for the Vanessa. I actually don't own a scarf for like, I don't know, 5-6 years now.
270.
Vanessa with ace-8. Makes it 270,000 from the small blind. Gets a fold from Shack, who had king deuce.
Free limo ride?
that was not the year, but this
got it
year,
this
and,
year.
yeah, and last year too. And I've been alone in my limo, and I had just a full bottle of champagne just for myself.
Nice.
I think I should doggy bag it though, because I just like drink a.
I did.
Okay.
I did a little piece that you'll be seeing at some point this week, where I went around a limo with a Supernova, and I took that bottle right with me when we get out the limo.
But I guess it would also be interesting to see him play against Vanessa if he got more chips, and why not try to play against the best? But Dan, no disrespect to Dan, he's playing really well today.
Top 2 for Vanessa. Nada for Shaq. She's just limped in the small blind pre-flop.
Interesting to see what Dan's gonna do here, but I think he checks. That's interesting. I think most of the players would try to buy this spot on the flop.
Third diamond on the turn. Dan, the only player with a diamond.
Now Vanessa needs to bet, because she would be sick if the 4th diamond would hit the river for free. And we'll see if Dan thinks that 8 of diamonds is enough to stick around. Yeah, but he's too good.
Confirmation that there will be a 1 hour break in the tournament, a 1 hour dinner break.
Nice steal.
Either
Thank you, sir.
at the end of this level, 55 minutes time,
You say
or
that no matter what I say.
when we get heads up,
That's
if that
true.
happens before the end of the level.
I get no information from that.
Eli says, looks like Vanessa Selbst and Dan Shaq were fated to play heads up again. 8-9 suited for Vanessa on the button.
Because Vanessa must raise
Whatever double the big blind is.
with this
320?
this hand now, because she got done on her left,
really
and
have
she
to do
would
the
love
math
to
for
play
you.
big hand with him,
Ever double the...
having position. But also
I wasn't lying.
there is a short stack on the big blind, and she just, I don't think she can call. She can call.
Queen Jack for cross.
Yeah, it's gonna be all in, and I think fold.
Time to make like UPS and ship it.
I think Quas knows he's gonna move in, but yeah, but he just,
How much is the total?
I think he just want to take his exact the same amount of time. That was the same with King Jack
Unfortunate for me, but
from small blind. Yeah, it's exactly what happens now. Vanessa.
I think I'm gonna have to gamble with you.
Oh,
What?
that's interesting. I think she would should assume that she's too good to make a call like this and risk. She knows she's behind.
Minutes fewer than 10 bigs, and she does make the call. Hi-ya!
Vanessa Selbst calls and puts Fabian Quas at risk.
If 9 high.
I thought you were bluffing.
With 9-7.
I thought you were bluffing.
Well, he gets it in good, but he's only a 60% favorite.
Vanessa's joking, of course.
This is fun, these two hands, because no matter what comes, there's always like a sweat for the other one, you know? Unless it's just like
2-2-2.
8-8-3 or something.
Or ace queen 4.
Trying to persuade the dealer.
And it looks like this is, even though it looks a little nutty tusk, probably
Oh.
pretty
Like that.
standard.
And it is addressing. Open-ended for Vanessa. And a gut shot and overcards
Just one flop.
for Fabian. He's blocking one out.
7.
And 9 would be nice too.
Well, that's not one of...
That's good. Now all my outs are clean. That way, if I hit, that's much better, because if I hit
No
on the turn,
redraws.
and then you could still hit on the river. Much better to hit on the river.
13 cards that would see Fabian Quas eliminated in 3rd place. 13 cards that would send us heads up. Well, that is not one of them. Instead, it's a pair for Quas. And this set's very expensive. I do not want to see it broken by Fabian Quas's Railbirds.
Not going anywhere.
Nice hand, sir. Not afraid to call
Did
you
you
light.
make sure?
Yep.
Thank you.
This hand 75 of the final table. Dan Shack raises to 400,000. Vanessa Selbst defends a big blind with Queen 8 suited.
Queen high flop. Shack flops a gut shot. Backdoor clubs. Vanessa with top pair. Summer tweets in to say, come on, Vanessa Selbst. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know, like 8 exclamation points. I didn't think she was serious when I saw the 7th exclamation point, but
well,
the 8th one really sealed the deal.
The thing is, you've got 140 characters on Twitter, right? So there was a room there for a lot more exclamation points to really underline your point.
You got to save some for later, though. You can't just max out on the EPs. That's what I call exclamation points. You can't max out on those right away.
So Dan continuing the flop for 500,000.
You called that look by Quas in the last hand. The Roger Moore. Adam Hemmings calls it the Quas eyes.
Ryan LaPlante says Selbst's raise call with 9-8 suited seemed pretty standard to me. Even if others, including Matthew, call it a bit of a questionable call.
I think that was a purely math call. I get what DeWarsaw was saying about saying, you know, Vanessa can probably outplay someone later or pick a better spot, but my guess is that she's not really making wrong mathematical decisions at that point. It was for less than 10 bigs.
So Vanessa check calls the flop with top pair. It goes check, check on the turn. She checks the river. Dan going to take a stab.
This shows queen pawns and eights. 2 pairs. Queens and nines, so it's a kicker.
No, he checks behind.
Caught one.
Pocket nines.
Raising small to big.
Will we have a confrontation? Not a pre-flop confrontation. Shack does defend with Jack 9. Misses this flop. King 6-6, 2 hearts.
He's not involved in this hand, but Dan Smith tweets about Fabian Quas that he is bossing the short stack. Shows you all about discipline. Also, he's good for a few jokes.
Shack has decided to lead out at this. Out of flow. And I don't think Vanessa can fold just yet.
Somebody have a tissue? You do.
You know, and this is just going to look bizarre to her because I think most of the time, like let's say that you have a 6 here or a king, the play is just to check call. You wouldn't want Vanessa to fold her air hands. You want to give her a chance to continue on this flop, so this may look a little fishy.
This is a nitty fold.
Wowee. It worked. It worked.
Nitty folds.
Where did you get that one?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it was a Christmas gift.
Oh, not from my parents, I hope, because that would really tilt me.
Actually.
So we don't know where you got it. Okay.
Well, since I don't want to tilt you, you know.
Big hand here for Fabian Quas.
Min raising the button with tens. Vanessa, king 5 suited in the small. She flats.
That's the first time in this tournament.
This tournament?
I've seen you call a small blind, yeah.
Not the first, not this tournament. I don't do it that often.
Boom, top pair.
How does she play it, OOP?
Well, what Vanessa must be thinking right here is, since she only called, she's trying to disguise the strength of her hand to the button, but she's going to lead out here.
She leads for 425,000. And Fabian shows he's folding tens.
Another nitty fold. And by the way, I got that one wrong before, guys. I had my positions all screwed up. Alan Berry writes in to say, hey, Stapes, she was out of position. Dan was in the big blind, dummy. How about ace-jack suited?
Very creative.
Thank you.
That can mean both things, you know?
Yeah. How much do you have?
2.5 here, 2.6, 2.7, and change.
Chad, you know why Fabian's the best?
Why is that?
Because I said so.
Okay.
You're new to this. It's okay.
Well, I'll tell you, made a good lay down there with the 2 tens, the way Vanessa played it. Normally she does, if she's going to come in with a king 5 suited in the small blind 3-handed, normally she will 3-bet there. So it was a little tricky play, and then she led out. And like Fabian just said, why would you lead out if you had top pair of kings? And that's, Vanessa was trying to trick him, but it didn't work out.
So Vanessa limps the button with ace-jack suited. Dan Shack raising from the small blind makes it $500,000. Fabian's out.
Vanessa's certainly not folding in position.
Fold is not an option.
Call.
She elects to call. She will play the flop in position. And 6 is still good.
Big whiff race, Jack.
Dan set to continue. Out of 700,000 into the pot of 1.2 million.
Tough spot for Vanessa here because, you know, she disguised once again the strength of her hand with the ace-jack suited and let Dan take the lead. And of course, she figures Dan's going to lead out on a flop like this with no matter what his 2 cards are. She makes a good lay down.
Probably very tempting for her to peel there.
Is like a barometer of how your year's going to go. And then, of course, if it fails, at the PCA, you say, it's just the beginning of the year.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Exactly. But everyone, says this is going to be my year, and so many events here at the PCA that, if you get knocked out of the main event, you got a few other tournaments to jump into, and you're just feeling good about that this is going to be your year. And how about Dan Shack? I mean, Dan Shack's been, playing some good poker lately.
Shack raises the button. Gets a call from Vanessa Selbst with ace-10. And look at that.
Look at this.
Vanessa flop best, but Dan Shack turns the straight.
Shack fires away here.
When check on the flop, Vanessa checks a second time, and here comes the delayed c-bet from Dan.
How much trouble can Vanessa get into?
The payoff wizard tweets, rooting for Dan Shack to win, watching from Imperial College London's library while revising statistical thermodynamics. Sounds like fun. Vanessa calls.
Thermodynamics sounds like things are heating up.
Ace on the river. So Vanessa now has 3 pair.
Wait a second.
Does 3 pair beat a straight?
Should. Vanessa first to act here, deciding whether or not to value bet, but not really.
Call.
1.2 snap call.
1.2 and a call.
And that was a significant pot for Dan Shack. Significant pot for Vanessa Selbst, obviously. Shack extending his chip lead over Vanessa. He now has 8.1 million. Vanessa down to 3.2 million.
Seems like she's kind of trying to do
350.
Just mix things up a little bit, balance, as they say.
Well, Vanessa's had a certain type of image, and she's trying to use the image of the perception that people see her as from the past and change it around. Now, Dan, I think, has played a lot with Vanessa over the last year. So Dan probably knows that Vanessa has been changing her strategy.
1 million.
Jay Shack says Shack crashing, hope he wins. Vanessa Selbst moves all in, and Dan Shack calls. And Vanessa Selbst finds herself at risk. But she has the best hand.
She's got Dan dominated. She's got to love this spot that she's in to double up.
This would see Vanessa retake the chip lead.
Very good flop for Vanessa.
Just has to fade a 7 or running straight cards that would see Dan Shack send her to the rail in 3rd place. Shack's immediate out to the 3-7s in the deck. That takes away running straight outs for Dan. So still just a 7. 3 cards for Vanessa to fade, and then she gets that double up.
I could tell you who Fabian's rooting for.
There's a strong chance of a chop as well, but a 9 on the river. Sees ace-10 hold. Vanessa
Queen,
doubles
king, or
up.
jack, chops, right?
A lot of trap bets.
And Vanessa, I would say, at least in her mind, believes to have a post-flop edge, so she maybe doesn't want to necessarily get into these giant pre-flop confrontations and just play the hands where she thinks she's
2.6
got
before
her strengths.
Well, especially if at this final table she feels she's picked up some strong tells on either Dan or on Fabian, then that just adds more to it that, you know, I'd rather see flops cheaply, and I know what they're doing on the flop.
She certainly played that way against Dan. Against Fabian, she did try to take him out with 9-8 suited for around 9 big blind shove.
Vanessa 3-betting from the small blind. Quas is open. It's a 320,000.
We do still have Dan to act.
Vanessa's made it 580K.
But I don't know how often Fabian's going to be raised folding. Shack folds king 10.
A lot of students watching. Andrew says, shout out from Reno, Nevada, doing atmospheric research at the Desert Research Institute. Whereas John Joe says, I'm watching from my living room and not studying. Top that.
I'm all in.
Quas shoves.
Should be 2.6 something. 9, 1. 2.5. Thank you.
I think Vanessa knows she has to fold here.
She doesn't like it, but she has to go along with it.
She's not getting 2-1. There it goes.
So, you know, there are just certain fighters or certain poker players that match up better heads up.
Exactly, and I think that as far as Vanessa's rail is concerned, Dan's the better matchup.
Regarding that hand where Vanessa laid down the 9s and Dan Chak had Jack 9, Vanessa Selbst had a huge brain fart and convinced myself I had a read and made a terribad flop fold. Right after I folded, I was like, where has my mind gone? Oh well, never mind, flame away. Vanessa picking up ace-king on the button. Queen-jack for Fabian Quas in the big blind.
Here we go.
Cool.
Quas just calls. Playing around 20 big blinds at the start of the hand.
What a flop.
King
Action.
8-10. Quas is up and down. Vanessa's got top pair, top kicker.
Fabian's got a lot of outs, but maybe not as many as he might think. He is first to act.
He checks.
Well, we know he's not folding. Does he just call this bet from Vanessa?
A lot of players will check raise all in this spot.
And you can see why. Often you're going to get a fold, win the pot right here. If not, you're never drawing dead. Quas decides to just peel.
Ooh.
Ace on the turn. Quas now with Broadway. Selbst with top two.
Well, we know some more money is getting in here. Just how much is it going to be?
I think it's all of it here.
By the way, the fact that any of these three players may be tweeting right now gives nothing away, because remember, the dinner break is coming up in 15 minutes. Hour-long dinner break.
And Vanessa, let's remember, not drawing dead just yet.
Not at all. 4 outs to take the win.
James tweets to say this hand is gross. I am literally screaming at work.
Well, Fabian right here has to determine how strong he thinks Vanessa is. Now he just calls, and I think that's a a relatively safe move against a player like Vanessa, who could easily be betting here with a far worse hand than she has.
No ace or king on the river. Quas's straight is good. 2.46 million in the middle, and he's got 2.2 million behind. He checks a third time.
And I think what he's doing is giving Vanessa one last chance to bluff at this. Vanessa not bluffing, though.
Lindsay says, I love how deceptive these two are playing, and I've got to commend Quas on using Selbst's game to his advantage.
Well, you know, if he would have went all in on the turn, Vanessa wasn't going to lay it down.
And of course, Vanessa's not checking behind. Top two pair.
No chance.
So few hands out there that are beating her.
She thinks she's got the nuts, and she just analyzed how much she thinks she could get him to pay off with a king.
980,000. Well, Quas does have the nuts.
And this is a situation, people like to goof on the scarf, but this is a situation where the scarf may be coming in handy. When you've got the nuts and you're playing at this stage, his neck pulse may be racing out of control. But look at that face, very calm exterior.
Modern.
Horace asked an interesting question about this hand, which we'll get to once it's concluded. So it's 2.2 million total,
Like
an additional
1.2.
Vanessa calls.
Youch.
Full double up for Fabian Quas. And that is a switcheroo as Vanessa Selbst becomes the short stack. 2.59 million. Quas, who at one point was down to 8 big blinds, is now the chip leader with 6.88 million.
Wow. In position, it's a different story.
She's now shoving.
King Neener.
Dan Sheck in the small.
Can I get a count, please?
He wants a count.
I don't think that I'm falling.
All right.
He's got the computer hand, Queen 7.
Cool
That
story,
was
bro.
Shaq. Shaq had Queen 7.
Oh, Shaq had it. What does he have?
We haven't seen his cards yet.
He said he doesn't think he's folding. He's got a weak ace.
Call.
We're about to see it because the cards are going on their back. Vanessa tables the
Yep.
King 9, the
Yep.
Ace 4 for Fabian Quast. So Vanessa's live. But she ain't feeling
The
good
short
about it.
stacks ran pretty good in this tournament.
Yeah, I ran too good earlier. Like,
Let's see the 5 cards.
I don't have a good feeling.
No King or 9.
Bad feeling continues.
At least I wanted to sit through dinner break.
Maybe
That's
you
the
can.
worst when you're short, when you just get short and then you have to go to dinner.
Is it worse than being out? Coin flip.
Well, when you're at the final table, only three-handed, you never want to be out.
Ooh, look at this.
She could get a chop with a 5, 9, or a king to win it.
Same 6 outs for the win. The river is a 3, and that'll do it. Vanessa Selbst out in third, cooled by Fabian Quast, top 2 against the straight, all in a few hands later, and gone in third place for $760,640. And with just 3 minutes left on the clock, we will go to dinner, and Dan Shaq will play heads up against Fabian Quast for the title and trophy. Both players guaranteed more than $1 million, but there's a difference of around $500,000 in prize money. Quast with the big chip lead as heads up play begins, 9.2 million against 4.79 million. And congratulations, Vanessa, first female player to final table a super high roller. She so wanted the win, but still a great result for her in the first event of the 2014 PCA.